Listen, do you want to hear about a miracle penguin?
Moonlit musings for sports-mad vampires, factory shift workers,
Never mind hello, Chuck.
And men with prostate trouble. Morning, Andy.
What are you doing?
Make sure you stay awake for the radio show that never sucks. The Nosferatu Mics on Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
Because, I mean, he was all right. He wasn't like a penguin who suddenly became ceramic.
There's literally no answer to that. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics, and I'm delighted to say that tonight we can welcome Mr. Mike Porky Parry with a special warm welcome. Very good morning to you, Mr. Parry.
And a very good morning. Sorry, mate, I'm trying to work out what it is now. It is morning.
What day it is? Yeah, it's a bit difficult working out what day it is.
Yeah, it is, yeah. A very good morning to yourself. And what did happen to the big moon? Did you see a fantastic picture in one of the national newspapers? I think it was the Times.
Yes.
Taken from the top of the Spinnaker in Portsmouth.
I did see that.
Through the window, against the moon, and it was massive. It looked like, the pizza pie in the sky type
picture. It did look
picture.
wonderful. In fact,
brilliant.
Producer Dave has just shown me an amazing picture that one of his friends has taken.
Oh, yeah.
And I've seen pictures from Chicago.
Yeah.
I've seen pictures from all over the place, right? But what we haven't really seen, with my naked eye, I couldn't see anything tonight. As I was walking into my apartment down by the river, I could see a light coming from behind a cloud. Porky's now just being shown.
That's a brilliant picture,
gorgeous,
isn't it? Yeah, absolutely fabulous. That was taken by an amateur, was it?
Yeah, it was.
Amazing.
Yeah, apparently,
Yeah,
with a proper camera. But I mean, I haven't. Unfortunately, I saw it last night. It looked very clear last night, but it's obviously bigger tonight. I saw something very odd actually last night, which I wanted to ask you about.
Yes,
and I don't know whether it was an optical illusion. I was outside.
Well, you probably had too much to drink.
There was a bit of drinking.
There was a bit of drinking. Like you normally are.
Well, there was a bit of drinking involved. We'd had a very long weekend working, So I decided I'd have a couple of glasses of red wine from Sicily.
Yeah.
Anyway, went outside for a cigarette, standing in the garden, looking out at the moon. Yeah. And there's some clouds drifting towards the moon, right?
Right.
Now, as the clouds got closer and closer to the moon, I thought, well, they're going to now obscure the moon.
Yes.
They went behind it.
Behind it, okay, yeah.
They went behind it.
No, they didn't actually. They can't.
Well, that's what I thought.
No,
but they did not obscure.
They were opaque clouds.
Opaque would still mean that there would be some shadow or something.
No.
Surely.
No, the opaque cloud phenomenon.
Do you mean transparent?
I mean the transparent cloud phenomenon.
Because the opaque cloud phenomenon would be different.
Yeah. The transparent cloud phenomenon is well known as part of the cumulus family.
Is that right?
And what it means is
what
that
about the cumulus nimbus family?
Yes, that's right. It's part of that as well. And it means that the raindrops that make up those clouds, the moisture particles they're known as, not raindrops, to us who study these things, the moisture particles are so fine that it's like looking through spray. You see what I mean?
Yes.
Spray,
well,
and therefore
even that you would get some refraction. You would get something, but it literally looked as though the clouds were going behind the moon.
No, it's a phenomenon which
quite spooky,
which you'd have become well aware of had you studied the subject a bit more.
All right. Well, we're talking to a moon expert later. I might ask him.
Indeed,
because it couldn't happen, could it? I mean, I didn't think
no, of
about
course it can't happen.
How could a cloud go behind the moon?
Well, only if the cloud was 227,000 miles away, which it's not.
And in space.
Yeah, and in space, and it's in our atmosphere, so it can't possibly happen.
Speaking of rain droplets, would you like to have an insight into the kind of thing that our children are now being taught at school?
Yes.
My latest, my son's latest geography homework is to imagine that he is a raindrop.
Imagine he's a raindrop.
Over the course of 3 days. That's how, and he has to write about that.
Do you know, when you used to trying to get into Oxford and Cambridge, they'd give you these sort of challenging questions on these ridiculous papers, and one of them once was write 900 words on the inside of a ping pong ball.
Right.
It's the same sort of thing, isn't it?
Well, you mean actually not write them on the inside of a ping pong ball?
No, write about the inside, write 900 words about the inside of a ping pong ball.
But that's probably sort of philosophical, isn't it?
Well, that sounds to me like that's what they've asked your lad to do.
No, this is now geographical questions. They said you must use geographical terms. And I said,
and what's he got to do? Write about a raindrop?
Well, imagine he's a raindrop.
Imagine you're a raindrop.
And write about what happens to you over the course of 3 days. And I said, well, surely you'll start up in the sky, right, in a cloud.
Yes.
You'll then fall down to earth, and maybe you should land in a river. And if you land in the river, then you can pretend that you've swum out to sea, and then you get out to sea, and
shouldn't you
swim with the fishes?
Shouldn't you start from the basis of the fact that you are nothing except vapour?
Oh, what you mean, start on the ground?
Yeah, who's risen from the sea into the sky. and then you join millions of other raindrops forming a cloud, and then the temperature changes and the atmosphere can no longer hold you.
Wind blows you somewhere.
Wind blows, you drop down again. Anyway, look, all that. The best
You're
answer...
not interested in this, are you?
The best... Yes, I am.
Because my problem is whenever I give him advice on how he should do his homework, it's almost inevitably wrong. Because he then, takes that in and he says, no, I don't think that's what they want.
No.
Because he said, why would they want to know about me sort of swimming, mingling with the fishes? That's a really interesting story.
Yes, interesting story, I agree. I did that, write 900 words on the inside of a ping-pong ball because I was practising, the entrance examination for Brasenose College, Oxford.
Well, presumably you could have just interviewed the ping-pong ball like all those other phantom interviews that you did in your career.
Do you know what I wrote? And I got a commendation from my English teacher for it.
Did you?
I wrote, the inside of a ping-pong ball is very similar to the outside of a ping-pong ball. That was it. That was the best answer.
Well, what about 900 words?
Well, I said you don't need another, and he agreed. That was a perfect description of it. Yeah. Don't you think that's brilliant?
Well, I suppose so.
Yeah. See.
But I mean, presumably the test was about whether you could philosophise about something which is really very straightforward.
But I cut through all that, didn't I? Made the simplistic observation that you needed, which told you exactly all you needed to know.
Yeah.
Yeah. No problem at all.
You see, it wouldn't give any insight into your philosophical possibilities.
Well, it doesn't matter. It was still the best answer of the day. Now, you are trying to...
You didn't get into Brasenose College, though, did you?
I chose not to. I wanted to go to the University of the Trent.
Of course. Why would you want to go to Oxford and
urban
go
estate
to Trent
management?
Poly?
Yes, exactly.
To study surveying.
Now, what is this mounting campaign you have against Mr. Koeman?
I have no mounting campaign against Ronald Koeman.
Widely recognised as one of the most able coaches in world football, and yet you seem to think you know better. What is your problem?
Well, it's not so much that I know better, but what I would say is that, he's coming out with some very odd stuff at the moment, not least just the other day when he said that he thought Romelu Lukaku should move on to a better team, right? He's now come out, and I mean...
No, he didn't say that, you see. What he said to fulfil his career properly, he will have to move to a club bigger than Everton.
Well, yeah.
Well, that is pretty obvious. What Mr. Koeman said was, I will eventually make Everton a very big club.
No, he didn't.
But I don't know if I'll do it in time to keep Romelu here.
Romelu?
Yeah.
He seems to think, basically, that Everton are never going to get into the Champions League, which is why he was hired.
No, he doesn't.
Which is why Mashiri presumably put the money in to try and get better players to get them into the top four, and that's not going to happen. But you can imagine the glee with which it's been greeted by Liverpool fans.
Why would they greet it with glee?
Well, this is Anfield, which I would imagine is quite a well-known Liverpool blog.
Fan
site and all that. I mean, it's their lead story.
Yeah, okay.
And he says, I've been very impressed with Liverpool so far. Maybe that is not what you might expect the Everton manager to say.
Yeah.
But they've been playing some very good football and deserve to be at the top.
Yes.
I mean, it's all very well saying, that's sportsmanlike. It's not the kind of thing Liverpool fans want to hear.
Doesn't that simply illustrate how comfortable Mr. Koeman is in his own skin? Doesn't it simply illustrate how pragmatic he is about the way football is on Merseyside at the moment? The Liverpool are on a bit of a bounce and he's got work to do at Everton. When people say to me, you must hate Liverpool, I will say, no, I don't hate Liverpool. I don't love Liverpool. I don't hate Liverpool.
But you want a manager of your club, which you have, sweated for, week in, week out, year in, year out, as many Everton fans have, coming out and saying he thinks Liverpool will win the title.
I don't find it offensive at all. I find it, as I quite rightly said to you, as I just said to you, that means Mr. Koeman is very, very happy to rise to the challenge of trying to match Liverpool and overtake them, as Howard Kendall did in the 80s quite successfully, and that he's not hiding. Most managers would say, I'll be there, we'll get him, I'm going to overtake Liverpool, this sort of empty nonsense. He's just been completely pragmatic and highly intelligent as he is.
Well,
and frankly, it doesn't offend me whatsoever.
I'd like to hear from some other Everton fans, because I heard plenty of Everton fans over the weekend on Talk Sport saying that they were not happy about his comments about Lukaku. Yeah. And in fact, some of them saying they wanted him out of the place. So I think this will have upset them even more.
Well, I don't think so.
How about this from Def, who has sent this
What's his name? Def?
DEF, yeah. I guess his Twitter handle.
Leopard.
As in leopard, exactly. He says, Koeman can be heard whistling "You'll Never Walk Alone" in the corridors of Goodison Park.
Who can?
Koeman.
See, that's an overreaction. Look, Def, you're a good lad. You're an Everton fan, is he? Yeah.
He doesn't say.
Doesn't say, no. And just appreciate it for what it is. Mr. Koeman recognises a good football team. Liverpool are a good football team at the moment, and they've got the they've got the momentum, they've got the energy. That's where he wants to be, and he's going to get there. I have no doubt about that. And frankly, the fact that he can sort of sit up and say Liverpool are looking very good, to me, is a good sign. Doesn't mean he's hiding behind anything because he's frightened that he can't match Liverpool. He believes he can, and I believe he will.
Well, we shall see. I don't know what he's going to come out with next, though. AJ in Gosport says, I don't know who took the picture from the Spinnaker. I'm sat at the taxi rank in Gosport looking at the tower, and it's far too cloudy to see the moon.
Yeah, but hang on, pal. If the picture was published this morning, the picture was taken yesterday, okay?
Right,
get into your head, get into your bonds, all right?
Bill says this, Mike Plato Parry's take on a ping-pong ball is radio gold.
Thank you.
And David says, what type of smoke was MG inhaling? Was there a frog jumping over the moon? MG seeing fairies at the bottom of the garden?
Yeah, you're right.
No, it was just ordinary smoke, David.
You're right.
Very much. I think it was an optical illusion. Anyway, if you're an Everton fan, you want to talk about Ronald Koeman bigging up Liverpool, you know what to do. 08717 22 33 44. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
1, 2.
It's a guess.
I thought it was a non-singing show.
Right. Well, Canvasback Jack is a guess.
Canvasback Jack. You want to do another verse?
Canvasback Jack. Well, yeah. Canvasback Jack. Yeah. Now, you might wonder what I'm going on about.
I am wondering what
you might wonder what I'm going on about.
I do remember vaguely what happened in the last hour, though, when you suggested that Canvasback Jack was, in fact, one of those great guys from the old era of Henry Cooper-style boxing.
Indeed.
Jack Bodell.
Now, I want to actually pay tribute to him. Now, people will say, well, that is my tribute.
Well, that is your tribute.
That is my tribute to Jack Bodell.
I think that's fair enough.
At 77 years of age, Jack Bodell has died. He was a great British boxer. People say, are you mad? Because Jerry Quarry once knocked him out in 64 seconds.
I remember Jerry Quarry.
And in fact, I think it was the last fight he ever fought.
Was there not another Quarry? There was two brothers, wasn't there?
Well, Jerry Quarry was the Irish-American one. He was the sort of famous
but I think he had a brother, is what I'm saying.
Did he?
He used to fight as well.
Okay, I wasn't sure of that.
Yeah.
But anyway, the point of my story is that Jack Bodell was said to be, a great lumbering sort of oaf of a man.
Yeah.
And he was known as the Swadlincote Swineherd because he came from a village called Swadlincote in Derbyshire.
It's quite a long nickname, isn't it?
But he was a pig farmer. I mean, not a full-time pig farmer. He had a small holding which he kept pigs. So people called him the Swadlincote Swineherd. Now,
it's a great name, to be fair.
Well, it is. And where he made his name was, Joe Bugner had taken over as the golden boy of British boxing from Henry Cooper. Henry Cooper, of course, was the favourite of all time. Henry Zammer and all that, the man who knocked Cassius Clay, as he was then, to the ground in the fight before Cassius Clay became Muhammad Ali and before he became world champion. But Joe Bugner was then reigning, and then Jack Bodell fought him and beat him. He knocked him down in the 14th round. He used to fight 15 rounds in those days, believe it or not.
Right.
And took over. So he finally got a bit of respect from the industry. But where he excelled was that Muhammad Ali, as he was then, was having one fight. I'm not sure who Muhammad Ali was fighting, but he was fighting a southpaw. And Jack Bodell was a southpaw, okay? So somebody told him about this guy, Jack Bodell, and he said, could he come over and spar with me? So he did. Ali was, in fact, in Germany preparing to fight Karl Mildenberger, okay?
All right.
Who, like Bodell, was a southpaw. No man alive as fast and who can hit as hard, said Jack Bodell after sparring with Ali over the period of 3 weeks. But the greatest was impressed as well. Ali was impressed, and he said, you'll have no trouble with the people in Europe. Anyway, Jack Bodell, when he retired, he opened a fish and chip shop called The Knockout in Tile Hill.
Fantastic.
Which is an area of Coventry, I think, where he'd settled.
I thought it was Derby.
Well, he was from Derbyshire, but I think he'd settled in Coventry by this time.
Okay.
And believe it or not, when he was about to open his fish and chip shop, he rang up Muhammad Ali, who came over and opened it and didn't charge him a penny for the for coming over. So
he's been running a fish and chip shop for the best part of about 40 years then, presumably?
Yes.
Because he must have retired sort of in the 70s, right?
Yeah, I think it's still in his family. I think his sons or daughters or whatever got into it. No, hang on, sorry. He sold a fish and chip shop in 1990, but went on to enjoy a life of leisure, travelling widely with his wife, Jean, who is still alive, from the money he made in a boxing career.
Very nice.
So good for him.
Well, good for him. I'm just looking at Jerry Quarry here, right?
Yes.
And he must have had all these great names in those days, because as well as being known as Irish, as you quite rightly said, he was sort of an American Irishman, he was also known as the Bellflower Bomber.
Was he?
And I don't know why the Bellflower
Bomber. I'm not sure about that one.
And he did have a brother who was called Mike Quarry.
Oh, okay.
Who was a high-ranked contender in the light heavyweight division.
Yes.
So I remember seeing them both. Apparently, Jerry Quarry ended up being a sort of sometime bit part TV actor.
Yeah, did he? Yeah, a bit like OJ.
Well, OJ was in quite a few movies, really.
Yeah, he was, wasn't he? Yeah.
Apparently, he was. He had a recurring character that he played on a show called Adam 12.
Oh, yeah, Adam 12. Yeah,
which I've never heard of.
No, I know, have I. Just to finish the old Jack Bedell story, and obviously Jerry Quarry interlinks into that.
Yeah.
The reason he acquired the nickname Canvasback Jack was because in the Jerry Quarry fight, he got knocked out in 64 seconds. And famously, the interviewer said to Jerry Quarry at the end, Jack was said to be an awkward boxer. Did you find him awkward? He said, well, he fell a bit awkwardly when I hit him. But the picture on the back of the Daily Express showed Jack Bedell literally unconscious, flat out on the canvas. Yeah. And the headline was Canvasback Jack, and that stuck with him for the rest of his life. Yeah.
A couple of tweets here that have come in. One from CCL, who says, Ray Koeman, would you hear Fergie say things like that about City, or Jose about City, or Jose about Arsenal? Never.
Yeah, but it shows a man full of self-confidence, doesn't it? Not afraid to talk up the team that are the main rivals to Everton, of course, in the city of Liverpool. I admire Mr. Koeman for it. I'm not at all, spitting and shouting at any disloyalty or anything like that, because it's not like that at all.
Yeah. Hey, Two Mike, says Paul, is a QPR fan. The only thing I can think of that Porky has in common with a ping pong ball is that Porky is batty.
That's very
Paul from Bucks.
That's very kind. Somebody else came in earlier and said ping pong ball and Porky both full of emptiness and thin air. That's a bit harsh.
That is a bit harsh.
Yes.
Well, somebody else had said that the air is useless inside a ping pong ball. Actually, it's not, because if you didn't have any air inside a ping pong ball, presumably it wouldn't be a ping pong ball.
No, it has to have air inside, otherwise it would implode, wouldn't it?
We were supposed to have a game of ping pong, weren't we, when you came to
Mallorca? Yes.
But you bottled out of it.
No, I didn't bottle out of it. I just didn't have time.
I see.
No, I was going to say.
By the way, I've got a little announcement for you. A very nice gift arrived for us this evening.
Oh, excellent! Yeah.
And it was in a very big box.
Right.
And then inside that, it was inside a very nice kind of Santa type sack.
Okay.
With a ribbon.
Yes.
Right. And it comes from the people that run the Two Mikes FC Twitter account.
Okay.
Which is at the Two Mikes FC, which is basically the fan club.
FC not standing for football club.
No,
standing for fan club. Yeah. Okay.
And the guy's name is Matthew. I'm not going to give his last name out in case he doesn't want us to.
Right.
But inside the box, and inside the bag, is a rather nice bottle of Bollinger.
That's very kind.
Isn't that nice?
And this is from Matthew.
What a shame you can't drink champagne.
Well, I can't actually, because only 1/3 of my heart works, and it disturbs the rhythms of the heart.
Yeah.
But I have to say, Matthew must be a man of some means if he can find the resources to send a bolly. It's very, very kind of you, Matthew. Thank you very much indeed.
Very kind indeed.
And
Thank you.
You go right up to the echelons of amongst the best of the Two Mikes followers.
The higher echelons indeed.
And in the pantheon of Porky followers, yes, right up there.
Yeah.
Right up there.
And here's one from Scottish Bully who says, hopefully I'm going to get the new DVD soon instead of the old one. Old plank-faced Parry's mucked up the orders as usual.
Well, can I just tell you?
We did explain this, didn't we?
There's an update on this, right? I spoke to the distributors today, and it was just mixed messages and computer screw up and all that kind of stuff. And the 15 people, and I thought it was only 8 originally, but I didn't realise the orders were piling in so quickly. 15 people have got an old DVD. We'll get a new DVD, and it should be with you tomorrow.
And they can keep the old one.
You can keep the old one, and it'll be with you tomorrow or the day after. So thank you very much indeed.
Literally buy one, get one free.
Buy one, get one free. Well, it was for the first 15 because the literally a computer glitch.
Yeah.
However, we are going to put the old DVD up on the sales page on our website in case you want to buy it anyway. It's still there. And can I say that we have been overwhelmed by the response to the new DVD, and they are going out in the hundreds a day at the moment.
Like hot cross buns?
Yeah, like hot cross buns,
that's right. Do you think we should remind people of what you said yesterday on the show we did yesterday afternoon? That you thought we might start some kind of a line of hot cross buns?
Well, what I'm thinking about is, how we can improve people's lives in all sorts of ways, and that was just a loose suggestion. The one thing we can't talk about, by the way, on the show tonight, and I have to emphasise this, is my secret daytime mission. We cannot talk about it, I'm afraid.
I have to also say, all throughout the day, with regard to that secret mission, there's been a lot of tweets sent in. We can't retweet them. We can't mention anything about the tweets. If you want to send any tweets in about the secret mission, we won't be able to read them out. So you'll just have to try and desist from going anywhere near that particular subject, please.
Please don't think that in any way I'm ignoring you, or Mike's ignoring you, or we are ignoring you. It's just that the secret mission, I'm afraid, is
a secret mission.
It is of that nature, and the law of the land will not allow me to wander onto that subject in any way at all.
Right.
My apologies.
Well, that's fine. I think that's perfectly understandable. Yes. William says this: I see Porky has proved what a great predictor he is, correctly forecasting a 3-0 win against Scotland.
Thank you.
Well, I don't remember it that way. I remember you predicting 2-0. I remember you predicting 4-0.
No.
I don't remember you predicting 3-0. You make so many different predictions that we're not quite sure.
If I predicted 2-0 and 4-0, then the mean average is 3-0. But I didn't.
You can't predict 2 or 3 different scores.
No, I actually predicted 4-0, but it's very kind of our correspondent
William.
There to give me the accolade of getting it absolutely right at 3-0.
Def has sent another
Should have
one
been 4-0.
Trump winning, Brexit, Koeman praising Liverpool. What next? Porky praising old MG. I don't think so.
No, I don't think that's going to come anytime soon.
No, exactly right. Now, lots and lots of people are saying things about the supermoon. We will be having a supermoon expert coming on a little while later in the show. Also, Tim Vickery is going to join us tonight as well.
Great.
As you can see, if you look at the screen behind you, there's a lot of fireworks going off in the MetLife Stadium.
Yep.
New York Giants are playing tonight in the NFL.
Oh, wow.
We'll be keeping you updated with all of that stuff as well.
Is there a man called Green playing in that game?
A man called Green?
Yeah.
Why?
Just seen a guy with a word green written on his back.
Well, that's probably his name then.
Yeah, probably.
Was he wearing a blue shirt?
Well, they have such strange names, American football teams. I thought they might have been the Green Bay Packers or something like that.
Yeah, but they
wouldn't
put the word green on the back if you were a Green Bay Packers fan. I thought you were supposed to be a Green Bay Packers fan.
No, I'm not. I'm not a fan of American football, really.
Well, do you know what they call Green Bay Packers fans?
They've got a weird name.
I've told you this before. Cheeseheads.
Cheeseheads, yeah.
We've got to talk about cheese because apropos your prediction about the cream running out of the world,
we certainly have,
or at least of this country. Apparently, it's not going to have any effect on milk or cream, but it is going to put the price of cheese up.
Well, I can tell you a little bit about that.
All right, we'll
later
be
in the show
more about that, and of course, we'll take some of your calls if you're Everton fans. You want to find out what Koeman is going to do next. 08717 22 33 44. This is TalkSport.
It's a wonderful night. You gotta take it from me. It's a wonderful night. Come on and break it on now. It's a wonderful night. You gotta shake it from me. It's a wonderful night. Come on and break it on now. It's a wonderful night. Everybody can see. It's a wonderful night. Come on and break it on now. It's a wonderful night.
This is TalkSport. We are the two mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. There will be listography as well, so send us some ideas. Hashtag them listography and we'll decide on them a little bit later on. Mr. Bertie has tweeted and said, hi, Mikes, can you wish me a happy birthday on tonight's show? It will mean the world.
Right.
But his name is not clear, so Mr. Bertie is what his name is.
Okay, Mr. Bertie, happy birthday.
Thank you very much indeed. Let's talk to Kevin, who's an Everton fan, find out what he makes of Mr. Koeman's latest remarks. Kevin, very good morning to you.
Good morning, boys. You all right?
Yeah, hi,
very
Kevin.
well, mate. What would you like to say?
Good morning. Yeah, good morning, Porky, fellow Sophie.
Yes, hello, mate.
I totally agree with you.
Yeah.
I think he's very, very comfortable. To be able to come out and say what he said in this city, I think it's very comfortable. And I think it bodes well for Everton Football Club.
Yeah, so do I.
To have a man at the helm who can speak so comfortable like that. I'm quite happy for him to say it.
Would there not be some of your fellow Everton fans, Kevin, though, that wouldn't want Liverpool spoken about like that?
Oh, obviously, but I think the majority would be quite happy to know that Ronald is comfortable to be able to come out and say.
Well, the thing is, Kevin, he's speaking from the heart. He's speaking honestly, and he's speaking pragmatically because he's a sensible, grown-up man. That contrasts enormously with Mr. Martinez, who came out after every defeat that we suffered, sometimes in the last minute, and told us all how brilliant we'd been, and it was all a question of bad luck. Now, I'd rather have a manager who faces up to what's going on, if Liverpool are doing well on the other side of Stanley Park, than some guy trying to, fool us all the time that things are better than they are.
Yeah, you're right, Mike. And Mr. Graham, Mike.
Yes.
When you said before, I've got to bring this up, Mr. Moshery was bang on the button when he said about Mr. Koeman, what he said about Romelu Lukaku. He never ever once said that he had to leave Everton Football Club. What he did say was once he fulfills his ability, he will be able to play for someone of that ilk. He never once said he should leave Everton Football Club.
Well, he said something to the effect of, if he doesn't leave here and fulfil his potential, then he will have missed out. It was something like that, wasn't it? Because basically what he was saying was that, he wants to play in the Champions League, which Lukaku said himself many times, and he more or less was given the impression that he wasn't going to play in the Champions League if he stayed at Everton.
But what it is, it's like any spherical game. Football, golf, cricket, tennis. You've always got a snooker. You've got to play with people who are better than you to advance. And that's exactly what happened. I'm backtracking now. That's what happened to the young lad, Wayne Rooney. He outgrew Everton, and he was an apprentice to no one. He had to go to fulfill it, to fruition. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he did.
So I'm quite comfortable with Ronald Koeman coming out to say, I remember in the 80s, Mike, when we won the league, there was a manager at Liverpool Football Club, Mr. Fagan, Joe Fagan.
Yeah.
He came out and praised Everton Football Club for the football he played. Yeah. And they deserved to be league champions. Yeah. What happened to that man that summer? He was politely asked to leave.
Yeah, sure.
But isn't it the case that Kevin, that the Moshery buying into the club was meant to kind of catapult Everton up into top 4 contention? And I realise that gets more and more difficult every year. But, I mean, it doesn't look very close at the moment, does it?
Mike, give him a chance. It's a baby steps, mate. He's only been there 10 minutes.
Yeah. Exactly, of course he has.
12
games.
The Bramley Murdoch.
Yeah.
That if that comes off, fair enough.
Yeah.
I'd rather him do what he's doing than promise us everything and give us nothing.
Yeah, I totally agree. What it says to me is this man is so confident in his own ability, he has so much self-confidence to turn Everton round, that he doesn't mind speaking the truth. And speaking the truth is all that Everton fans require. So I would say it's a good thing. Kev, I'm delighted you agree
Kevin,
with me. Thank you very much for the call.
Very much indeed for calling. Well, I'll tell you exactly what he said, because I don't want people to accuse me of taking his words out of context, right? No. He says... they have goals in their team, and this is what all successful sides need. Talking about Liverpool. Yeah. Of course, they can be champions this season. They have a good chance, but they are not the only contenders. My Everton team has played Manchester City and Chelsea in the last few weeks, and both were very impressive. We managed to draw at City, but you could see the quality of these teams. Then we all know what happened at Chelsea, as we lost 5-0, and they put in a very good performance. It was difficult for us, but you have to be impressed from their side, so maybe they can also have a chance.
Yeah, so he's not just talking about Liverpool, is he? He's talking about the teams in contention to win the Premier League title, and because he is a man who, doesn't want to call black white, he's saying Liverpool have to be a contender. And if he'd said anything else, people would have said, you're fooling yourself, Ronald. But he's not. He's talking honestly.
All I'm saying is it just seems a bit odd that in the last couple of days, and I know it's International Break Week, and sometimes strange things get said by people in strange places, which then get reported back. He said 2 things which I would have thought were rather sort of unusual for the Everton manager to say, that's all. Well, I'm merely drawing your attention
I think it's quite refreshing, and I'm glad that an Everton fan, Kevin, gave us a call to attest to my satisfaction with what he said.
Exactly right.
Yes.
Now, a couple more tweets have come in. One from, let's see, who's this from? This is from Dazza. First subject of the week, and we have Cumulus Plancus in full effect.
Yes.
And there's a fantastic picture, by the way, which you should look at on Twitter. Supermoon over the North Sea at Berwick upon Tweed.
It's incredible.
Near Porky's retirement home. And there's a lighthouse in the picture. Yep. And I don't know whether you recognise that particular lighthouse. But, I mean, that's the picture there. It's beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's a light on in the lighthouse as well, which would suggest there might be somebody in there.
Well, I don't think it's a lighthouse anymore. I thought it might be a lighthouse at Lindisfarne,
right?
Holy Island, but it's even further north than that. That's actually on the Scottish-English border.
Yes. Well, Berwick upon Tweed is one of those, is famously half English and half Scottish, isn't it?
Well, there's 2 towns, isn't there? Berwick and Berwick on Tweed.
Yeah, and if you go across the river, you're in Scotland, and if you stay on this side, you're in England.
And one of them, the English team, plays in the Scottish League, doesn't it?
That's right.
That's right, yeah. Yeah, absolutely, yeah. Good, that's what I like to hear.
Yeah.
Now then, this row about money, right?
Oh, the Southgate row?
Well, there's 2. There's 2 going on. There's the Southgate row, and the latest headlines tomorrow morning are saying, it's a £6 million deal. So normally speaking, for an England manager, you'd think $6 million a year, but it's not. It's $6 million on a 4-year deal.
Right.
So it's $1.5 million a year.
$1.5 million.
And the other one, which I really can't understand, is Harry Kane having to sort of, go with the begging bowl to the door of the boardroom at Spurs and say, look, I get 50 grand a week, but Vardy at Leicester gets 120k a week.
Right.
Could you do something about it? And they seem to be reluctant to listen to his pleas.
And there are even other players at Spurs that get more than that, aren't there?
You know the guy that Everton tried to sign from Newcastle?
Yeah.
What's his name?
Sissoko.
Yeah. Apparently he's getting 90 grand a week.
90, yeah, so he gets nearly twice what Harry Kane gets.
Yeah, and once again, it's all about this coming in from the outside, isn't it? Because Harry Kane's come up through the ranks.
Yes.
He's been paid in sort of, it's been ratcheted up as he's graduated in the first team, then he scored a few goals and all that. To get a player from outside and attract him to come in, you've got to offer him big money. And that's what they've done with Sissoko, who, let's face it, has been a very disappointing addition to the squad, hasn't he, since the start of the season?
Well, he has rather, yeah. But, I mean, that's the problem with football, isn't it? I mean, Sanchez is in the same situation at Arsenal. He's kind of arguing with Arsenal about why he's only on 130,000 a week, rather, which lots of people would say, well, that's plenty.
It is,
but if he went to someone like Manchester City or Manchester United,
yes,
he could probably double that, couldn't he?
Yeah, exactly, yeah. I had one statistic sometime this evening that some fan who earns the average sort of salary, like 36 grand a year or something, takes him 6 years to earn what Wayne Rooney earns in 1 week.
Really?
I mean, that is just astonishing statistic, isn't it? Absolutely astonishing.
It really is. But, I suppose I said at the top of the show, the FA are making a bit of a rod for their own back here, and they kind of are, but I guess they can't sort of win for losing, can they? Because they're offering him 2 million less than Allardyce, basically.
Yes, that's right.
In my view, they shouldn't have offered Allardyce that kind of money.
Well, I think they're offering him half what they paid. I think Sam Allardyce was getting about 3 million.
Well, according to the back page of the Times,
yes,
that's what the headline says. Southgate to earn 2 million less than Allardyce.
No, I think it's half. I think Allardyce was on 3, and I think they're offering Southgate 1.5.
Well, he's going to be making the lowest salary as an England manager since Kevin Keegan.
But it'd still be one of the biggest in the world. Well, Kevin Keegan got 700,000 in the year 2000, I think.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, but I'm delighted that they're ratcheting this down because it's a ludicrous amount of money. I mean, the old FA under the old board, every time Sven sort of managed to persuade one of his Fleet Street pals to write a story saying, Inter Milan are after Sven. Oh, get him in here. Give him another 2 million a year. It's all that kind of stuff.
They got rid of his break clause because
right.
he'd won quite a few games.
That's right.
But, I mean, the problem is for the FA, it looks as if they're being parsimonious. And it does look, if you're Gareth Southgate, it looks as though they're looking at him and thinking, well, you're a guy that's going to take the job.
Yep.
There's absolutely no reason why you won't take the job.
Yes.
So we'll lowball you, as they used to say in property quarters in New York.
That's right.
We're just going to lowball you and see what happens. Now, he might come back and say, for that kind of money, I'm not interested.
Yeah, low ball.
Because in the past, don't forget, they've offered him the job and he said he didn't want it.
Yeah, but you see, that was when he thought he was in a position to be able to say, I'll come next time round, because he could see chaos looming in the distance. But now, of course, he is at the top of a queue of one, and it will be interesting to see who blinks first.
Yeah, he will be. I mean, I suspect that he would. Because if he didn't take the job, what else is he going to do? Because if he doesn't take the England job, he can't exactly stay within the organisation doing something else.
No, he can't.
But would he be offered another job in the Premier League? I very much doubt it.
I very much doubt it because he has no Premier League record.
Right.
The difference is that Sam Allardyce did have a record of solid management in the Premier League.
Yes.
Not glittering, but solid.
No, exactly right. Lots more for us to talk about, of course. We'll be talking more about Southgate and how much money he's getting, and Harry Kane. And, of course, we're going to talk to Tim Vickery, who's got some news for us on the World Cup qualifiers over in South America. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
TalkSport, we are the Two Mics. Listography coming up in a little while. Don't forget, hashtag listography. Tweet it at the Two Mics. We'll pick a subject coming up a little bit later on, but it can't have anything to do with, of course, the secret mission. Let's now talk to Mr. Tim Vickery, who's over in Rio in Brazil. He's been watching an awful lot of football over the past few days. Tim, very good morning to you.
Yeah, good morning to you. Mr. Graham, were you tempted to kind of trail back north across the border, crestfallen, think again on Friday night, or have you taken it in your stride?
What do you mean, over to the north side of the river?
Yes,
no, I didn't actually.
Perhaps,
I didn't. I mean, I must admit, I was rather crestfallen and disappointed by the Scottish performance. But it's one of those things with Scotland. They normally win when you expect them to lose. And if you ever think there's a chance they'll win, they never do.
Indeed, a very perverse bunch of people.
Well, they are.
As the 1978 World Cup proves so mightily.
Exactly. Well, some of the teams that they've beaten, they have no right to beat. And then just when you think they're on a roll, suddenly it all goes horribly wrong. So, but amazingly, I said this to Porky over the weekend, the terrible thing is now that the England fans don't really now even regard Scotland as a big game anymore or any kind of opposition, because they're just not.
Well, they haven't got any players, Tim. That's the problem. It's not their fault. You know, the Scottish people now are not being born and bred as great footballers like they were in the days of Dennis Law or even Graham Souness and Kenny Dalglish. There just aren't any.
Indeed, and we don't have to go back very far to find, the time when the best players in the English league were Scottish.
Well,
weren't they?
One of the reasons Liverpool won all their European Cups was the backbone of the team was Irish and Scottish and Welsh with Ian Rush.
Exactly and Hansen, Souness, Dalglish, that's a spinier side, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Where did it all go?
Well, I mean, we were out on having a pint or two with Alan McInally at the weekend, weren't we?
That's right, Macca, yeah.
And I mean, he's another guy that played for Aston Villa. He obviously played for Celtic as well.
And he played for Bayern Munich.
And played for Bayern Munich. I mean, it was a great player. It's just you wonder what happened. But anyway, let's get to the meat of the matter. Now, aside from all the football you've been watching, I wanted to ask you about Mr. Sanchez down at Arsenal, because there's a bit of sort of background noise going on, shall we say, at the Emirates about him not being happy that he's only getting 130,000 a week. And what are you hearing over there in the international break?
Well, first of all, and he wasn't fit for Thursday, so they've patched him up and they're gonna roll him out and play him tomorrow night at home to Uruguay. And Uruguay, if they can catch him, probably will kick him. So I don't know what Arsene Wenger makes of that. I'm not entirely sure what Mr. Sanchez, what is beef with at Arsenal. I think he's not an easy customer. In fact, that Chile dressing room is very difficult. And the captain, Claudio Bravo, who said this recently, said, we're a difficult dressing room and a lot of us don't really get on very well. And I think Sanchez might be a little bit difficult. I mean, he wasn't happy at Barcelona. How many people are unhappy at Barcelona? Maybe Ibra and Sanchez are, the only two you can think of. But he wasn't happy at Barcelona because he couldn't be the main man. So he was restricted to a certain role. Now at Arsenal, he's got more of a free rein to wander across the field and do his thing. But does he believe that they are serious contenders for silverware, for the real proper silverware? That seems, I think, to be the bone of contention. As much as wages. I think he'd like to have the perfect combination of a club where he is both important and in contention for the Champions League.
Yeah, and I mean, it's not as if I'm suggesting he's being greedy, because, what footballers get paid is what they get paid. But I think for footballers, it's galling to know that there are many other people making more money than you who may not be much better than you or may be worse than you.
Yeah, and I suppose it's a short career and all the rest of it. But, I think if someone could... My interpretation of this is that I have to doubt his belief in where Arsenal are going at the moment. Because, and one of the things that you can't really show your grandkids, and you can show them like a house that your money has bought you, but what you really want to show your grandkids is your medals,
the silverware
as well. And I think he wants some of that. And,
so shouldn't you be much more worried about the situation regarding Harry Kane at Tottenham then, Tim? Because I mean, this situation's ludicrous. This man is getting half of what some of his teammates are getting. He's getting half of what Jamie Vardy's getting at a much smaller club, Leicester, and Spurs are being intransigent about it.
Yeah, but I expect nothing more than heroic defeats, Mike. So whatever. As long as we don't go down and we have a few great games on the way, I seem to be happy.
Yeah, but you'd want to keep Harry Kane, surely.
I think it's time you upped your expectations, Tim.
Yeah.
Yeah, maybe, but I've been away a long time, and we've been mediocre for a lot of that long time in which we've been away. Just the fact that I'm now in a country where people have actually heard of the team, I don't have to get out a pen and spell it. When people, that's enough for me.
Sure.
And the other day, not very long back, I was wearing a kind of Tottenham polo shirt, and the only thing it had to identify it as Tottenham was a cockerel. There was no reference to the team or anything like that.
Yes.
And the bank security guard, who must be a minimum wage earner, he knew, as I walked in, he knew the team and he knew the next opponents. 15 years ago, you wouldn't got any of that.
No, you certainly wouldn't have done. No.
So tell us what's been going on in round 12 of the qualifiers.
Well, it kicks off tomorrow, so I've got a long night ahead of me tomorrow. All 5 games tomorrow. Yeah. There's one absolute standout, which is Argentina at home to Colombia. Now, Argentina very, very deep in the treacle. And Colombia at home, this is it's not opponents that you want to play in this current position. Colombia are very cute on the counter-attack. Argentina will have to come out and play. There will be opportunities for Colombia to launch that counter-attack. It's not been played in Buenos Aires. Argentina at the moment, they have this policy of taking it round the provinces. And this one is taking place in the northern province of San Juan, which is known for being one of the centres of Argentina's very famous wine production.
All right.
So come the end of this one, Argentina will either have something to celebrate or they will really need to drown their sorrows.
Yeah, I mean, can they come... I mean, if they don't get anything out of this game, because I think last time we spoke they were down in 5th or something like that. I mean,
sixth place.
Can they get back up? I mean, is it possible?
Yeah, I mean, the problem is, I mean, after this game, we'll be 2/3 of the way through. 12 rounds gone, another 6 to go. And there are still some difficult fixtures for them in those last 6 games. Right. But the fact that it is 18 games, it does mean that there's plenty of time to haul yourself back in contention. And five games ago, before this new coach took over for Brazil, we were doubting Brazil. Brazil were down in 6th. New coach takes over, 5 wins out of 5. They're practically there already. You know, another 2 wins from these remaining 7 games will be enough to see them over the line. And Uruguay as well. Uruguay very close. It's going to be a real dogfight behind them, and it's going to go right down to the line.
And Peru taking on Brazil as well.
Yep. That's right, yeah. And Peru, they got lucky. Now, Peru have had a terrible, terrible away record in recent years. In fact, you had to go back to June 2004 for the last time they'd won an away World Cup qualifier. Nearly 30 qualifiers that they'd been without getting an away win, and they'd lost almost all of those games. And then 2 weeks ago, a game that they'd lost to Peru 2-0 away, they'd lost to Bolivia 2-0. They got awarded it 3-0 because Bolivia had fielded an ineligible player. So they had, after all this time, not by the exploits on the field, but just by the stroke of a secretary's pen, they'd finally won another away World Cup qualifier. And the habit seems to have stuck, because last week they were 1-0 down to Paraguay and ended up winning 4-1. So Peru suddenly dream again. And Peru against Brazil is going to be a little bit of a test for this Brazil side. I think the Brazil coach, Chichi, I remember last time I spoke to you from the stadium just after they beat Argentina 3-0, it's almost gone too well for him. I think he would like his team to go behind. He hasn't seen how his team reacts to going behind yet. So if Peru take the lead, I think Brazil's coach might have a little smile on his face. Let's see what we can do now, because he knows they're going to qualify. They're close enough to qualify. He wants to see how his team are tested. So that'll be an interesting one as well, to see how much Peru can test Brazil.
Absolutely. Now, just going back to Argentina for a moment, I've seen a story here this morning about Leonardo Ulloa from Leicester, who may be going to Sunderland in the January transfer window, possibly for 10 million. Have you seen anything about that?
Yeah, well, I think his problem at Leicester is he's become a bit part substitute. So, but you know, if I was in his position, I wouldn't do that until that they're knocked out of the Champions League, which you know they've started very well, because you never know. I mean, you know, they might suffer a couple of injuries along the way. Exactly. Yeah. And you might have your big chance to shine in the Champions League. So if I was him, I would be sitting put to the end of the season. You would not be moving me for life nor money.
No, indeed. And what about Lionel Messi? Is it true he's rejected Barcelona's latest offer to him?
Well, it's also true, apparently, that because Argentina travelled up to this San Juan, and it was a bit of a bumpy ride, apparently, a bit of turbulence, as there often is in the afternoon going through Argentina. I've suffered that myself a few times, and he was throwing up on that one. Apparently, he was throwing up on the on the plane.
That's not good. It's not good. He shouldn't. He should have more control over his his physical attributes.
Yes, well, there is a problem, I think, with Barcelona with the tax situation, and so that's something which has perhaps put a strain on negotiations between him and the club. He's hinted that he would like to end his career back in Argentina with the club, the splendidly named Newell's Old Boys Club in the city of Rosario, where he first came up the youth ranks. I can't see that happening yet.
That's a crazy dream. Isn't one problem, Tim, the fact that back in Spain now, where Barcelona and Real Madrid literally used to carve up all the money in football between themselves, they're now having to share quite a lot of it with Atletico Madrid, who've been sort of admitted to the elite, the elite division of the top 3 teams rather than top 2.
And look at Sevilla this year as well. So suddenly the Spanish league is looking a little bit more interesting.
That's what I'm saying. And that reduces the revenues at Real Madrid and Barcelona because they have to start paying Atletico Madrid more to compete at that level.
Yeah, although I don't think they're going to go hungry anytime soon now, do you?
Well, no, I don't. But what I'm saying is that the monopoly, the duopoly. Duopoly. No, there's a word, isn't there, for cartel. The cartel. That Barcelona and Real Madrid had.
I don't know how to say that word in South America too much.
No, has been broken, hasn't it? Yeah.
Exactly right. Well, listen, Tim, enjoy the football. We'll talk to you, I'm sure, about it all same time next week. Tim Vickery there reporting into us from Brazil. Got quite a few interesting stories for you from gauging through some of the newspapers. There's one about Wayne Rooney on the front of one of the papers.
About going to America.
No, being on a bit of a bender after the England win against Scotland.
Well, I mean, look, what are you doing? Persecuting the boy because he had a drink after a successful football match?
But he's pulled out of the Spanish game with an injury.
By the way, why don't you say cartel when you come to South America? Because of drugs.
Well, yeah, because it makes you think of Medellin.
Medellin.
And, the Narcos. That's another great show that you should watch, by the way. It's on Netflix.
And the Medellin.
Pablo Escobar.
Which, I mean, the thing about blow your knees off.
The thing about Narcos, which is great, which is like a sort of docudrama.
Yes.
It talks about how he got into the world of politics, basically, and how he sort of got a lock on it. Because he was making so much money.
Yeah.
They were literally burying it in the fields around his house.
And it was going rotten because, they just had so much they couldn't insulate it against frost and all that kind of stuff.
He basically started just giving money away
to
all the locals, so they would all kind of love him, and they thought he was brilliant, and then he started giving money to the political party, and nobody could turn him down, because in the end, the money he was offering them was so huge, and they just went, all right.
He bought so much property that he completely destroyed the property market, because he owned so much of it, it became non-competitive.
Yes. Now, the thing that I wanted to ask you about, because it would be sort of, not because I'm persecuting Wayne Rooney at all, but in a way of sort of, shall we say, contrasting two different people from Manchester United. Gary Neville, a guy that you've often praised to the high heavens, right, was making a speech to the Oxford Union.
I know he was, yeah.
And he gave his final and best starting 11 of the Manchester United team and legend.
Did not include Wayne Rooney.
Wasn't in it.
No, and who was the other one that wasn't in it?
Zlatan.
Zlatan Ibrahimovic. Yeah, but is he talking about a current Manchester United 11 or the greatest all time?
No, I presume he would be. It's a current one actually.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, because you wouldn't expect a greatest all time one to include Ibrahimovic.
No, but
because of
well, they've had so many great players.
So many great players. Yeah.
But I mean, I just find it odd that one day. Friday into Saturday, Wayne Rooney's getting himself well bladderated, and then suddenly he's not available for a game on Tuesday night.
I think you're just focusing on the boy unnecessarily.
Okay, all right, just pointing it out. Anyway, coming up in the next hour, we're going to talk to an expert on the moon. We're going to find out about what the supermoon is all about. Dr. Ian O'Neill,
walking on the moon.
He's a space scientist and physicist. So if you've got any questions to ask him, start preparing them now. This is TalkSport. This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on, of course. And as you've been hearing, despite a couple of little mix-ups at the start of the campaign, you can go to the2mics.co.uk and order our new DVD, which was shot live in Edinburgh. Not just a live show, but lots of walking around the town and going into bars and things like that as well.
Yeah, you keep going on about walking around the town. People don't want to see us walking around the town. They don't care about us walking around the town. What I think you should say is,
go on.
In exciting...
well, I wasn't particularly excited about walking around the town.
No, that's what I'm saying, and they're exciting adventures around Edinburgh.
Yeah, all right.
Because it's quite exciting to me to be eating fried haggis and spam fritters.
Yeah.
I mean, I like that.
You did like that.
Liked having a few beers in some of the properties we went into, like being in the Scotsman, the old building, which housed the famous newspaper.
Which is now a hotel,
for many years, which is now a hotel.
Yeah.
Now, talking about hotels, right? Now, far be it from me to ever...
it's not an area of expertise for you, hotels, is it? After what happened in Liverpool and rugby and Whitley Bay.
Let me just talk about the Grove here, because you see, we're reading a report here, and far be it from me to ever criticise my former colleagues in the tabloid newspaper world, but wedding guests at a fancy hotel stunned to see Wayne Rooney boozing at the bar. All this kind of stuff, not a pretty sight. But then he goes on to say that he was then asked later on to join a wedding party because he's a very famous man and they get married. He said, yeah, no problem. He went in there, he posed for pictures and all that. There's a report then that he was red-eyed and red-lipped.
Yes.
Red-lipped due to red
He's
wine.
Red wine, yes.
And red-eyed due to excessive bladderation.
Yeah.
And yet I'm looking at a picture of him posing with a girl from the wedding party, and I don't think his eyes look red, and I don't think his lips look red.
No.
So what I'm saying
his
is
shirt
that...
looks red, though.
Well, that's because he's got an England Vauxhall sponsored shirt on.
Yeah.
But all I'm saying is that I think the boy is perfectly... He'd been released from the squad because he wasn't going to be playing against Spain. He's having a few drinks at the Grove where the England team was staying. I do think that's a little bit harsh to try and accuse him of misbehaving, which I think is the inference here.
Well, they're talking with quotes from an eyewitness who says he was being very friendly. But then, having said he was being very friendly, they then slag him off for being, slurring his words and all the rest of it.
Yeah, at midnight,
it's a bit harsh, isn't it?
That's right. At midnight, he was asked if he would come and say hello to the guests at a private wedding party. He did so. He posed for photos, chatted with the bride, and had a few more to drink. I can only conclude he was celebrating his win against Scotland. He was. They say he was affected by drink, but I mean, you do get affected by drink if you're having a few celebratory drinks.
Yes.
So I'm a little bit. I'm on the defensive there towards Wayne Rooney.
Take that report with a pinch of salt.
No, I'm not. So I'm not accusing any of my former colleagues of egging the pie is the expression, isn't it?
Over-egging the pudding.
Over-egging the pudding,
Not
that's
egging
right.
the pie.
Over-egging the pudding. I just think that if it's an accurate description of his behaviour, it doesn't sound that outrageous to me.
Hey, by the way, do you know what's going on at Charlton at the moment?
Yes.
It's a team, a club that seems to be in some turmoil.
Just sacked the manager again, haven't they?
They've just sacked the sixth manager since January 2014.
Unbelievable.
Right? He was only in charge, Russell Slade, for I think less than 6 months.
Yeah.
They lost to Swindon at the weekend, and it was only his 16th league game in charge. But more importantly, I think this is kind of more interesting.
Yeah.
A group of supporters from the coalition against Roland Duchaletet, who is the owner, of course, have taken a taxi to Belgium to mark his 70th birthday and delivered a petition. Look, there's a taxi. It says taxi for Roland. Deliver a petition.
Who's Roland again?
He's the owner.
And he lives in Belgium.
Du Châtelet. Yeah, well, he also owns Standard Liège, doesn't he? I mean, it's one of these.
Oh, does he?
It's a bit like the Watford scenario.
Oh,
it's one of these guys that owns. What he wants to do is own clubs in different countries.
I see.
And move the players around inside the various organisations because it's apparently cheaper to do it that way.
I see.
So they're outside the European Commission in Brussels, right?
Yeah.
Where they're delivering a petition, which shows a great deal of sort of forward thinking.
Well, certainly a great deal of fortitude. Now, earlier on this evening, before we came onto the programme, before the studio, you were prattling on about Leon Russell.
Leon Russell, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, I mean, he was one of the great blues artists of the period.
Now, he's dead.
He has died over the weekend, yes.
And I'm looking at some tributes to him.
Yeah.
I can't work out what he ever did.
What do you mean?
Well, it says here that he was a session musician, right?
Yeah, right.
Well, there's hundreds of session musicians.
Well, yeah, but he was a particularly good session musician, and also he put out quite a few albums of his own.
Yeah, but none of them are worthy of mention.
That's not true.
Well, I can't...
Well, are you saying that you don't think he's worthy of mention because he didn't have a hit record? Is that what you're telling me?
Well, he doesn't seem to have had a hit record. It says here that he contributed to Phil Spector's Wall of Sound. Well, that was about half a century ago. It also says that, he got involved with quite a few famous songs like George Harrison's While My Guitar Gently Weeps.
Uh-huh.
And
he was with Joe Cocker. He played in his band Mad Dogs and Englishmen, right?
Yeah.
He appeared at George Harrison's concert for Bangladesh in New York in 1971.
Yes.
He had a couple of hits of his own. I mean, he was a very well-known session musician, but he worked with everyone. He's one of those guys who was very, very highly respected.
Yeah, but I mean, that session musician really means also ran. It doesn't mean, you're not a David Bowie, you're not a kind of, Bruce Springsteen. You're just a guy who, stood behind the stars and strummed a guitar, aren't you?
Well, he was a piano player, actually. But maybe he
wasn't. He was a guitar player.
Maybe he just preferred to do that.
He was a guitar player as well.
He started classical piano lessons when he was 4.
Yeah.
He played baritone horn in his high school marching band and also learned how to play the trumpet.
So why am I looking at pictures of him with a guitar on stage?
He probably play guitar as well, but he's more well known for being a pianist.
A pianist.
Yeah. Would you like to hear some of his music?
In a minute. He appeared on some of the Beach Boys discs as well as the Byrds version of Mr. Tambourine Man.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, okay, but
which is the version everybody knows.
So did dozens of other musicians.
Collaborated with Elton John, Elvis Costello. He was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I mean, what more do you want from a guy?
Well, I just don't think...
I mean, after you're slagging off of Leonard Cohen the other night, I don't really think you're in a position to give your musical judgment on anything.
I would say that if he was in a football team of 11, he'd be known as a bit of a journeyman. He's not a Lionel Messi. He's not a
not very many people are.
He's not a Rio Ferdinand. He's not an Alan Ball. He's not a Gordon Banks. He's just an also-ran.
No, he's not an also-ran. I think you're missing out on... I mean, there are many, many people who've been in the music business all their careers and all their lives, done very, very well, and contributed lots and lots of music to the world, and he's one of them. And, I mean, he wouldn't be inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame if he was a nobody, would he?
Well, I don't know.
I don't think you've ever heard a Leon Russell song.
No, I haven't. I didn't know there were Leon Russell songs, to be honest.
Well, why don't you have a listen to one?
Go on, then.
Well, how many years has it been since I was born? How many days till I die? Do I know anyway? I can make you laugh, but I only know how to make you cry. And the people looks around him, such a sight to see. Share the simple secret with a wise man. All the strangers in a straight line. Oh, my Lord.
Right, that's great. We don't need any more of that, do we?
You don't like that, do you?
That sounds dreadful to me. That sounds like some bloke with a fiddle at the local hop down in, Dallas, Texas or something.
He looks a bit like you as well. I thought that's why you might like him.
No, not particularly.
He's bearded. He had a beard all his life. Yeah. Elton John called him a mental inspiration.
Mental inspiration, did he? Yeah. But I didn't hear any piano in that track we just played, by the way.
You didn't hear any piano?
No, I could hear the banjo.
Would you like to hear some more again?
No, I don't want any more.
Do you want to hear some more?
No, I don't want any more. No. I just don't rate this guy at all. I don't think he's ever made a record that I've ever thought was a great record.
Well, he played on Pet Sounds, one of the greatest records the Beach Boys ever made.
Yeah, but so probably did about 30 other musicians. Really? That's what it takes to make a great LP.
No, I don't think so.
So the guy who wrote Pet Sounds, who was Brian, what's his name? Brian... Wilson, that's right. Yeah, and his two brothers and his cousin and Al Jardine were all the lead singers. Uh-huh. So, he may not have played on it, but nobody was aware of it at the time.
You're just proving yourself to be culturally vacant.
I think
vacuous.
Not.
And, if you don't like Leonard Cohen and you can't appreciate Leon Russell, then there's nothing more I can say. Apart from the fact that it's Cincinnati 7, New York Giants 7 as well, still in the second quarter.
Nobody cares about that. Most people will actually empathise with my lack of recognition for Leon Russell and for Leonard Cohen.
I see. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
I'm up on the tight wire. One side's ice and one is fire. It's a circus game with you and me. I'm up on the tightrope. One side's hate and one is hope. But the top hat on my head is all you see. And the wire seems to be the only place for me.
What do you think of that one?
Well, who was that?
That's Leon Russell.
Well, I think nothing of it.
That was one of the hits that he had, Tightrope.
No, I think nothing of it. I thought it was a very average record. It doesn't rock my boat at all, and it doesn't stimulate any of those, those electrodes you have in your head when a great record.
I don't have any electrodes
suddenly
in my head.
beams into your brain, and your brain starts spinning round. Like a spinning top.
Does that happen to you a lot?
Yeah, it does. Yeah, it does. Well, if I hear a certain record, I think,
what Alan says. Porky's disgraceful comments about Leonard Cohen. Listen to the future and stick to your fish fingers and Mungo Jerry.
Yeah.
Hashtag Philistine.
Oh, is that right?
That's what he says.
Okay, well, thank you very much indeed for those kind words.
There's a fantastic picture here that's been taken by Tony. He says, here's the supermoon above my work in Northampton.
I mean, that's brilliant. Yeah, absolutely great. Thank you very much indeed for all the pictures of the supermoon.
Looking very dark and stormy.
It's an education in itself, is it not?
It really is, absolutely. Becky says, it's going to be the highlight of my year seeing Porky eating haggis and spam fritters. Can't wait for the DVD.
Well, there you go. It's actually on there, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, you've seen it all the way through, haven't you?
Yeah. I certainly have.
And I'm on it all the way through, so I know what's on it as well.
We're both on it all the way through,
right,
luckily.
yeah.
Niels Lofgren from the East Street Band tweeted, another great musician has gone, says David. So Niels Lofgren's a big fan of Leon Russell as
well. I have immense sadness for people who pass away, even though they may be going to a better life. But you don't. That doesn't mean to say all the time you've got to be hypocritical and say,
listen,
this guy was wonderful.
You don't have to say that everyone is wonderful who died. I agree with you. I think that's actually sanctimonious, and I would rather you didn't do that if you don't believe it. However, the fact that you don't recognise that either Leonard Cohen or Leon Russell were actually of any use musically tells me that there's something missing between your ears.
No, I think they could have been useful musically. It's just that they didn't appeal to me, so I'm not going to pretend they did.
All right.
I mean, what gets on my nerves, excuse me, sorry for a minute, is people who so sad to learn that, somebody like, some guy in Australia's died, and they've never met them, they didn't know much about them, but they think, I tell you what, I'll just prove how sympathetic I can be to the fact that, this household name has gone. And if I don't know them and haven't met them, I just don't do it because I think it's silly.
Well, here's one from Alan. He says, Porky, you are a clown. Leon Russell wrote countless songs from Joe Cocker's Delta Lady to Michael Bublé's Song for You.
Yeah, is that right?
Yeah.
That means nothing to me whatsoever. Now, listen, we've got a story about cheese.
Cheese?
Yeah, cheese is going to get more expensive. And do you know why?
Because there's a
shortage of milk. And who raised the alarm bells about shortage of milk 10 days ago?
Well, what you did... No, it wasn't 10 days ago. It was last week.
That's
right.
It was
the end of last week. And what you said is that at Christmas there will be no cream for your Christmas pudding.
And yesterday we saw a picture of a Sainsbury's supermarket where the shelf for double cream was exactly empty.
But I don't believe that was because, in fact, there is a shortage of cream. I think the fact is that every single year people say there's going to be a shortage of something, and there never is a shortage of something, and you always fall for it, and you always put out this kind of ridiculous alarm to people. And the fact is that at the moment, because of the low price of milk, this is now one of the biggest cheese producing countries in the world.
Yeah.
Right? Because we had a cheese expert on to talk about that, didn't we?
We did.
It's now more profitable for these guys to make more cheese.
That's right.
So if cheese is going to go up in price, what that tells me is they're getting greedy, not that there's a shortage of milk.
It says here, the price of British cheese is expected to rise early next year because of a milk shortage. The milk shortage that I highlighted last week.
The milk
I rang the alarm bells.
Yeah, but the milk shortage, which is being talked up by the people that produce the milk. And we've had milk tanker people tweeting us saying there's no milk shortage, absolute rubbish.
Hang on, stores of cheddar are dwindling and production is dropping. This is according to the National Farmers Union, one of the most august and respected bodies in this country. More than 550 dairy farms have closed this year. That's this year. Think of the size of a farm and multiply it by 550.
Yeah.
That's how much dairy farm we've lost.
But I mean, without an explanation as to why that's happening, it means nothing. Because it may be that they're closing because they're either being swallowed up by bigger organisations, which is what's been happening over the course of the last 20 or 30 years. Small independent dairy farms are probably not very easy to make money from.
But I can tell you what has been happening. You see, what's happened is this.
Yeah.
An oversupply of milk led processors to pay farmers low prices, and many of the farmers responded by culling their herds. Now, the wholesale price of milk has risen in recent months, but dairy farmers say that processors are continuing to pay them below the cost of production.
But that's been an ongoing issue, hasn't it? And lots of dairy farmers are saying it's not fair what these cartels, to use that word, are doing in the supermarket business, because they're charging, they're offering to pay them so little money that they're finding it much more difficult to make money. So the only reason there's a shortage of milk is because they're taking the milk from the cows and making cheese with it. So that's why there's a shortage of milk.
Well, there's a shortage of milk for this reason. This comes from Michael Oakes, chairman of the NFU's Dairy Board.
NFU?
This is the most sensible quote I've seen today. He said, there will be a milk shortage because you cannot just turn a cow on and off. Okay?
What? You can't turn a cow on and off?
Yeah, that's right.
Well...
So you can turn a tap on and off, right? So if you want water, you turn the tap on, you get water. You don't want water, you turn it off.
Yeah.
With a cow, you have to milk the cow every day.
Yeah, but you can get more cows, can't
Otherwise, the cow dies.
Surely if you've got a milk shortage, which he's basically saying there will be a milk shortage, not that there is one, right? So it's another projection from this character. And it's the NFU. Guess what? The people who look after the farmers. The farmers are always telling us that they're poor. Have you ever seen a poor farmer?
Yes, I've seen plenty of poor farmers.
No, you haven't.
Yes, I have, yeah.
Well, you don't live in the country then.
Well,
because people who run farms in this country are doing very well indeed.
I'm in touch with the country, don't worry about that.
Here's one from Tommy who says, Mike Parry has no taste in music. Point ends.
Well, you say that, but that's only because I don't like the sort of music that you like. And anyway, loads of people just get trendy about music. Most people who like...
There's nothing trendy about Leon Russell.
Most people who spoke up about Leonard Cohen's music probably never listened to it because...
Not true.
Well, one thing everybody agrees on, it was very maudlin music.
Well, some of it was. No, but not all of it. James says Leonard Cohen was one of music's most revered and prolific visionaries. Tonight, Porky has shown his total ignorance.
I don't think so. Listen, there are a couple of other food stores I've got to tell you about.
All right.
Now, one of them is that if we all ate beetroot from birth...
Beetroot?
Literally, yeah. we would all be as fast as Usain Bolt.
What?
Yep.
What sort of beetroot?
Eating beetroot can make you run faster and faster. The purple veg boosted sprint times over 20 metres by 2%.
Which sprint times?
Sprint times for sprinters.
Well, if you're a sprinter, you're already running fast.
In sports events, it may also help old people to climb stairs or run for the bus. Yeah.
Well, but if they're testing sprinters, they already do run fast.
Yeah, but you run even faster if you eat beetroots all the time.
But sprinters run fast for all sorts of reasons.
Beetroot contains nitrates, okay? And nitrates increase the energy available to muscle cells.
Is this crinkled beetroot in vinegar, or is it just sliced beetroot?
Yeah, that sort of stuff. No, that sort of stuff.
Because that's got a lot of sugar in it.
Well, I'm going to tell you about that in a minute. In a series of tests, one group were given beetroot juice and another were given it with nitrates removed. Those who drank the juice with nitrates ran much faster.
Well,
they do. They run faster.
Well, yeah, but I mean, that's another one of these ridiculous studies, isn't it?
If you got a kid and you started giving him beetroot juice from a very early age, that kid would turn out to be Usain Bolt.
Well, why don't Team GB give all their runners, beetroot juice?
Well, they probably do. But it's too late then. You've got to give it to the children in their developing years.
And what if everybody's drinking beetroot juice? Then we'll all run at the same pace, won't we?
Yeah, absolutely.
Or if it's only got something to do with beetroot.
If there were more enlightened parents who fed their day-old or week-old babies beetroot juice, yes, we would.
I'm not sure that would be safe.
Of course it'd be safe. There's nothing wrong with beetroot juice. It's just basically a bit of vinegar.
Yeah, I know, but a bit of vinegar to a child who's a baby is not necessarily the right thing to do.
Now, the other thing I want to tell you about is salt. As we're talking food,
yeah. Is this the food section?
Yes, that's right, yeah. Now, some of us are born with a taste for salt, and I'm one of them. I love salt, and on my chips, on my roast dinners, on my fish and chips. I do. I like it on everything. I like loads of it.
Yeah.
Now, for years...
My father was the same.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah. That's good, because for years...
He went mad.
He did, yeah. He unfortunately, but I mean, he went mad for a lot of reasons, not just because he put salt on his chips.
The salt.
Yeah, well, I doubt it.
He took a lot of salt with everything.
Well, I do as well. And, for years I've been told, this won't do you any good, except that the most recent prognosis is that salt actually doesn't do you any harm at all.
Well, I think like everything...
salt can be quite good for you, and you've got to have salt in your body.
Well, you can't do without salt, that's
exactly,
for sure.
Yeah.
But one of the things that you don't necessarily think would be good is to take too much. It's like everything. In moderation, all things are good for you.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, it says here, if you find yourself reaching for the salt cellar every time a meal is served, your genes may be playing a major part... of that decision-making process, right?
Could it be something to do with the way that you were brought up, or the
No, it's in your genes.
The place. Well, that's but I mean, what I mean by that is that your family, because they might come from. My father came from a very working-class background.
Yes,
where a lot of salt was probably used in everything.
Yeah, exactly, to preserve food because you didn't have a fridge.
Yeah, I wonder if it's something to do with that.
Well, it says here, some people grow up with a sweet tooth, others are genetically predisposed to crave salty food.
Yeah.
Now, some would say...
I don't crave salty food, so for me, it's not... I know you've said that, but what I'm saying is my father did, so therefore it's not genetic, is it? Because if it was genetic, I would crave it as well.
No, it could be genetic to your father and end at his genetic map, if you see what I mean.
Well, why would it end?
Well, because these things do.
Well, something that's genetic simply carries on. That's what we're talking about.
No, it doesn't, because that means that Bruce Springsteen's child would be a brilliant musician, and Wayne Rooney's boy is going to be as good a footballer as him.
Maybe true.
Doesn't work that way. David Beckham's lad's not going to be as big a footballer as David Beckham. Now then, it says here, researchers at the University of Kentucky, Kentucky. I've been to Kentucky.
I've been to Kentucky too.
Bluegrass.
Did you not go to the Kentucky Derby?
I went to the Kentucky Derby.
Did you?
I also went to Kentucky to find out why the Queen was buying a racehorse there.
Oh, right. And why was she buying a racehorse there?
To try and win the Derby in London.
Because they sell them.
No, try and win the Derby back in England.
I was there to doorstep Stevie Cawthon.
Oh, yeah, Cawthon.
When he checked into a rehab clinic.
When he was a bladderation
he was,
man, yeah. Yeah, no,
I think it was Lexington, Kentucky, I think we were in.
I was in Louisville, actually, which was Muhammad Ali's hometown.
Right.
Now, those who carry this genetic variant were found to be nearly twice as likely to eat more than 5.75 grams of salt a day.
Yeah.
NHS guidelines suggest no more than 6 grams of salt a day. Well, in that case...
Well, that's all right, then,
That's all right, isn't it? Yeah.
Yeah, where do they come up with this rubbish?
I don't know. But anyway, look, Jennifer Smith, who was presented her findings to the American Heart Association Scientific Sessions meeting in New Orleans. Well, that's a mouthful. Genetic factors that influence taste aren't necessarily obvious, but they can impact heart health, by influencing the foods they select.
I see. OK. Well, here's Peter says, hot dogs are full of nitrate. Should we be scarfing those down as well? I wouldn't recommend eating too many hot dogs.
I like hot dogs.
Yeah, I'm sure you do. They're very salty too.
I like English hot dogs.
What do you put on them?
Onions.
Yeah.
No, fried onions.
Fried onions.
And tomato sauce.
No mustard?
No mustard. No,
really?
No. But I don't like American hot dogs. They're too savoury.
Do you think so?
Yeah,
I used to like the hot, spicy Polish ones on the street in Europe.
No.
Martin says this, I think I'm in a no sleep-off with Porky.
Oh, yeah?
I think I'm winning, but I'm going to go madder than him soon.
No, I don't think so. Don't think so.
This is Talk Sport.
Coming
up
a long
next,
way down the road.
Speaking of madness, we're going to be talking about the supermoon and what effect it's having on the planet. This is Talk Sport.
When are we going to be able to literally build a bridge between Earth and the moon?
I see the bad moon rising. I see trouble on the way. I see earthquakes and lightning. I see bad times today.
How about this song? Do you like this song?
Love it. Creedence Clearwater Revival.
Yeah.
John Fogerty.
Yeah.
And his brother.
Yeah.
Carl.
Dan, wasn't it?
No, Carl.
Carl.
John Fogerty, Carl Fogerty. The guy on the drums with the beard.
I thought Carl was the motorcycle champion.
No, I'm sure that he was also...
No, he wasn't also in Creedence. He's not the same guy.
No, it's not the same guy, but I'm sure there was also a Carl Fogerty in Creedence.
No,
yeah,
I don't think
pretty
so.
sure about it.
Anyway,
yeah.
let's talk to Dr. Ian O'Neill.
Indeed.
A man who is an expert on all things to do with the moon. He's a physicist, and we want to ask him about the supermoon tonight, which may be visible where he is, not particularly visible where we are. Dr. O'Neill, a very good morning to you.
Hey there, guys. Good morning.
Good morning to yourself, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Yes, now, I don't know where you are exactly in the world, Dr. O'Neill, but we can't really see the supermoon here in London because it's very, very cloudy, unfortunately.
Well, I'm in Los Angeles, so yes, I can see it.
Can you?
We don't get clouds here.
And is it? And one of the first questions I wanted to ask is that I was reading that there's going to be another one of these supermoons, I think, in December, and then after that there isn't going to be one for something like another 25 or 35 years. Why is it that it seems that we've got more kind of different moons now that we talk about? Like we've had the strawberry moon, we've had the supermoons, we've had a blue moon. Is that just because we now kind of give them different names?
Well, yeah, I mean, these are kind of cool names for the moon, and it's good for the media to jump on. It makes good headlines because a supermoon isn't actually a NASA definition. It's not an astronomer's definition. They got more technical terms for it. But as we're concerned, it's a supermoon because it appears slightly bigger in our sky, and so of course then it becomes super and it's a little bit brighter. But they do happen like between 4 to 6 times a year, and they will keep on happening. It's just that this particular supermoon is famous in that it's been 70 years since we've had a supermoon quite like it. We're not going to have another one quite this big until another 30 years time or something. So yeah, it's pretty cool. You can't really see any difference though, but it's just go outside in the knowledge that it's really super.
And what does it mean, Doc, to the celestial sort of framework, the celestial pattern of what it's all about? Is it upsetting anything, or is Halley's Comet about to arrive or anything like that?
No, of course the moon has massive tidal effects on the Earth, and I dare say there's a slight increase in tides, but we're talking something you can't even measure when you do have a supermoon. But yeah, that's kind of what you expect with these orbital dynamics. But as our life is affected, they probably won't affect us that much. It's purely because the moon has got like this elliptical orbit. It's not perfectly circular around the Earth. So this happens all the time. Occasionally it's closer by about 26,000 miles than usual, and then if that coincides with the full moon, the moon just looks bigger in the sky.
Yeah. And is there any evidence that the sort of the relationship between the Earth and the moon is changing? I know that these things change over probably millions of years, but I've seen some amazing pictures tonight of the moon sort of close up, and it's a fascinating sort of piece of rock, and there's still a lot we don't know about it. But I mean, is the orbit changing? Is it getting closer, further away? Anything you can tell us?
Well, I think a few billion years ago, I think it was around about 2-3 billion years ago when the Earth was still very, very young. Just when the Earth was forming, really, it got hit by another object. We still don't quite know what that object was, but we know it was pretty big, so it must have been like another planet or something. But back then, that wasn't so surprising because there was all sorts of stuff banging around in our solar system because everything was very unstable. So when this planetary object hit Earth, it basically spouted all this material into Earth orbit, created the moon. And back in the day, the moon would have seemed pretty big in the sky. It would have been a lot closer. But then as time's gone on, orbital dynamics have kind of settled out. It's kind of settled into this orbit. And I think there's some kind of cycle where it does sometimes get closer to Earth and sometimes further away. And that's just how these orbital dynamics work. But this case, I mean, the Earth and the moon's got a very, very good relationship. There is a slight change in its orbital distance from the Earth, but ultimately nothing's going to change, certainly not within a human life scale.
Okay, and Doc, it says that at the moment the moon appears 30% brighter, okay? So just explain to our millions of listeners, please, where does the moon get its light from? There is no electricity on the moon.
You say that. You say that.
We don't know, do we?
There is. Because if you think about it, you're on the Earth, it's nighttime, you're looking up.
Yeah.
That means the sun is behind us, and it just means that the sun is directly behind us if you've got a full moon. So the Earth, sun, and the moon are in complete alignment. We're looking directly away from the sun because it's directly behind the Earth. And occasionally you get a supermoon eclipse. So what can happen? The Earth can move directly the moon can move directly into Earth's shadow, and so you get a lunar eclipse as well as a supermoon. And that happened, I think, in 2015, so last year. And that was a cool event because the moon actually kind of went red. It was really good from my backyard because, of course, it's very clear skies here, and I was able to take some good pictures of it. It was beautiful.
And are there some parts of the world that are better to see than others? Because I was in Turkey a few years ago, and I don't remember there being a particular announcement about a supermoon, but the moon appeared to rise from out of the sea one evening. It was just really, really big and sort of a reddish colour, massive round thing, and it sort of it was almost like a sunset in reverse, if you could imagine. And it rose out of the sea from the horizon and got sort of smaller as it went up. But I don't think that was a particular event. I think it was just one night in Turkey, you know?
Yeah, exactly. It depends on which coast you're on, and it's kind of nice when you do see the moon and the sunset over, or even rise over the ocean. That's always kind of cool. And you've got quite a lot of options in the UK because we're an island nation. Turkey, that was really good. But yeah, I'm fortunate here just purely because of the weather, and it's usually the weather conditions that make it perfect viewing, really. And an interesting fact you mentioned. You saw the moon rising across over the horizon, and it appears bigger. But that is purely an optical illusion, because if you turned your head upside down, it actually looks the same size as it would do overhead. It's to do with the human brain. Yeah, I know. When I first found out about that, when I was looking at the moon, I always assumed it was some sort of atmospheric effect. Yeah. But it's not. If you turn around and
if you do a headstand,
your legs, do a headstand, you'll see that the moon looks tiny, like normal size.
Really?
Then when you stand up, your brain says it's near the horizon, so it must be bigger. It's really weird, and you can play around with that in your head. It's kind of fun.
Definitely. Now, Doc, I don't know if this is your particular bag, but you've just said that where you are in LA, you can see everything perfectly. Do we, as human beings, have we polluted the atmosphere so much that there are only certain parts of Great Britain where you can see it? For instance, I've got a friend in Wiltshire, and sometimes in the summer we go out with a bottle of wine at night, lie in a field, look up at the stars, and you can see stars that you never see when you're in London.
Right, yeah, light pollution. Light pollution is a huge problem. And it's a big problem, I mean, considering that we basically live in a desert area. In LA, we don't have a lot of moisture in the air most of the year. Yeah. And so you'd expect, to have really clear skies because there's no moisture in the air, because that's ultimately what obscures the sky. And that's what actually makes twinkling stars. It's basically moisture and air currents high in the atmosphere. But because this is more desert, you'd expect to have better view. But of course, we live right next to one of the biggest cities in the world. So light pollution completely obscures our view, and it's a huge problem in the United Kingdom.
Yeah, it is.
When I was back in the UK, when I was last there, I could barely see the stars that I would normally see in LA.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And that is a shame.
But come down to Sussex and you can see a beautiful a blanket of carpet.
You go to
Northumberland.
Doc, in this country, you go to Lindisfarne or something like that. The skies are not like the skies that you get in Greater London. It's almost as if you're looking from a different planet,
Yeah, unbelievable.
Yeah, and that was a big shot. I actually went to one of the big observatories in May down in Chile, and the night sky there was just incredible. And it was kind of a shock to actually stand under the stars because they seemed really close.
Sure,
you just saw the whole of the Milky Way. It was absolutely beautiful.
Oh, great.
No light pollution.
Yeah. Now, the last time the moon was this close to the Earth, I'm told, was 1948. Do you guys sort of track things that may have happened in that year to see whether they were in any way affected by the moon being that close to the Earth? I mean, I've got a question here from a listener called Rab, who says, is it possible that the supermoon caused that New Zealand seismic movement the other day? I presume you'll say no to that, but, do you track things that happen to the Earth?
Well, yeah, you can, and I don't think there has been any, connection with the two. But, I dare say, certainly with other moons in the solar system. So, a crazy example is the moon Io that orbits Jupiter, and that has massive active volcanoes on it because of its, tidal interactions with the planet. And of course, that's an extreme example because we're talking about a very, very small moon, but on the biggest planet in the solar system. But in our case, I dare say there is an effect, but you can't say, okay, it's a full moon tonight, we're going to have an earthquake. There's many other factors, and probably even more powerful factors than the tidal tugging of the moon. But I dare say it has an effect. I don't think there's ever been any research to support that, and if there has, it's probably just been there may be a very, very slight increase. I would probably want to
fascinating
that,
stuff.
I wouldn't say it's a match by any means.
So the next time we might see something like this is the 14th of December, but it won't be quite as good as this. But maybe if it's a clear night, everyone will get a better idea.
For your eyes, it will be exactly the same as what you saw tonight, to be honest. It's purely because the alignment is because it's like a clock. It's just like the full moon. The peak of the full moon happened at the peak of the close orbit of the moon within like 2 hours. So that was really close. But the other supermoons are like a couple hours either way. It doesn't matter. The supermoon technically happened this morning. So if you go out tonight, you would not notice any difference between what's going on right now and this morning, to be honest.
I'm hoping it might be a bit more visible tonight than it was this morning, or as I go home this morning, I should say, because yesterday morning it wasn't really very visible. But listen, Dr. O'Neill, thank you very much indeed. Fascinating stuff. He's a physicist, of course, space scientist. Very cool, the moon, isn't it? I mean, it really is one of those things
it's great.
You just have to like. Now, Derek in Pincoid has been in touch.
Pincoid?
He says, once again, a total lack of respect for someone who's passed away. He is a disgrace, and he claims to be a Christian. Doesn't sound like one to me.
Well, who's he talking about?
He's talking about you.
No. Which person is he talking about who's passed away? We've talked about a lot of people who passed away.
Leon, I presume you were talking about...
Hang on. Jack Bedell. I was wholly respectful to him.
What about Leon Russell?
Leonard Cohen, wholly respect for him. Leon Russell, all I said was, you name me one record he's ever made that got into the top 20 and which more than 5 people have heard about, and I'll concede he was a great musician. But I'm sorry, in my firmament, he wasn't.
Okay.
Simple as that. I'm only being honest.
Albus says this, there's no electricity on the moon. I'm in tears. This is Talk Sport.
It's 10 pounds, you plunger.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
Yeah, he, this court is now in session. His Honor, Judge Pigmeat Martin Poseidon. Peace, brother.
Uh-oh, here come the judge. Here come the judge. Everybody know that he is the judge.
Everybody, near and far, I'm going to Paris to stop this war. All those cats got to listen to me because I am the judge and you can plainly see. I want a big round table when I get
This is
there.
Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. Listography coming up in the next hour, so we'll choose something maybe very shortly for a subject matter for that. Matt says this, the moon is 30% brighter. Maybe Porky should take a leaf out of the moon's book. I don't know what he means by that.
Well, he means I should get brighter. I know what he means, no, the comment I made about no electricity on the moon is merely to indicate that obviously the light that comes from the moon, when you see it in the sky and it's as bright as a pie and all that kind of stuff.
As bright as a pie?
Yeah.
Pies aren't bright.
Well, what's the song say? When the moon's in the sky like a great pizza pie.
Like a big pizza pie.
It's amore.
Yeah,
that's right.
Amore.
Yeah.
But that's,
amore,
it's called That's Amore, but it's not about the brightness of it. It's about the fact that it looks like a pizza.
Yeah, well, okay. Well, I mean...
Have you not seen Moonstruck?
No, but it would have to be quite bright for you to actually detect the shape of a pizza in the pie, wouldn't it?
Well,
in
not
the
really.
sky. Well, it would.
No, really.
No, I want to
You're
talk
not thinking about Lucy in the Sky.
Lucy in
Don't
the
sing
sky.
that. How about this one from Stephen? Well done, Porky, a space expert being interviewed by a space cadet.
Yes, yeah. Well, that's all right. Don't worry. At least I was respectful to the man and called him Doctor, which
You
is
called him Doc
repeatedly. Well, he should be.
You called him Doc.
Eh?
You called him Doc.
Well, that's right. Now, listen, years ago, of course, I had the campaign for the FMP, the First Mrs. Parry.
Yeah, how's that going?
Well,
I thought they'd had a bit of a revival since the summer.
No. I don't pursue that anymore because, of course...
What do you mean you don't pursue it anymore?
Well, life has taken other turns and all that kind of stuff, so
I thought you were kind of reinventing yourself as a bit of a Casanova.
Not really. No, things are okay. But what I was going to say is...
secretive about it.
No. I came across some information today which means that, none of the people who should have got on the FMP list in terms of their individual personal wealth ever got there. It was a shame. Because remember last week I told you there was a lady who's head of an online betting site who earns such extraordinary amounts of money.
Oh, yeah.
Something like 117 million a year or something like that.
Is this what her annual salary is?
Yes, and a personal worth is about 1.7 billion. But
it does tell you that the bookies always win.
Yes, exactly. But from that, people then started sending me information on the wealthiest ladies in the world. So, for instance, Tina Green, who is, the wife of the vilified Sir, what's his name?
Philip.
Sir Philip Green.
Yeah. Or possibly not Sir Philip.
Exactly.
Don't go well.
Exactly.
But I mean, that's because half the stuff has been put in her name. Presumably.
Well, this is what I'm saying. And very unkindly, her name's Tina Green, very unkindly called Lady Shifty now.
Yeah.
She has a personal estimated wealth of 3.7 billion. So that's not bad, is it?
3.7 billion?
Billion, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's about the same as Donald Trump's net worth, isn't it?
I think it is, yeah. Anne Glow, who you'll know very well, because she was the co-founder of Stagecoach.
Yes, that's right.
With her brother Brian Souter, wasn't
it? That's it, yeah.
And she still lives in the castle in Scotland, I think, doesn't she?
Yeah, I think she does.
She's worth 500 million.
Right.
J.K. Rowling, the...
It's a joke, isn't it? It's a joke, isn't it?
Yeah.
Well, that kind of money, you just can't imagine it.
It's not a joke. I think that's brilliant how these women have succeeded so well in life. J.K. Rowling has a fortune of 600 million.
Right.
And that, of course, comes from being one of the world's most successful authors.
Yeah, I think yesterday, funnily enough, I don't know why I know this, was the 15th anniversary of the release of the first Harry Potter film.
Was it really?
Yeah.
Well, look how that's gone. Isn't it amazing? Adele, who is only 28.
Yes.
I can't believe that. She's only 28, Adele.
Yeah, I didn't know she's that old, actually.
Oh,
she's only been at the top of her profession for the last 4 or 5 years.
But she's got a little girl and something, hasn't she? And, anyway, her estimated wealth is 92 million.
Right.
I mean, just unbelievable. Kate Moss, who is 42, but still looks utterly splendid, estimated worth 55 million.
That would surprise quite a lot of people. I mean, even though we know that Kate Moss is in a business that pays very well, but I mean, she hasn't really been a top model for quite a few years.
Well, she has been. She's been a top model since she was 16.
Oh, no, I know that, but what I'm saying is she's not now.
Oh, I see what you mean.
I'm sure she still gets paid very well for whatever she does, but she doesn't do that much.
Yeah, but she still features in, international modelling campaigns and things. And then a lady called Dame Natalie Massenet.
I don't know her.
She's the American-born former journalist, started online fashion site Net-a-Porter.
Oh, Net-a-Porter.
Have you heard of that?
Yeah, I've heard of that, yeah.
From her Chelsea flat 16 years ago, storing the packaging in her bathtub. Her estimated wealth is £135 million.
Wow.
It's absolutely fascinating stuff. And then E.L. James... Another authoress, I suppose.
Yes.
She wrote the 50 Shades of... what did she write? 50 Shades of Grey, did she?
Yeah, I think so. And the sequel, no doubt.
Yeah, that's right, yeah. Former West London housewife, very good material, 50 Shades of Rich, thanks to her erotic novels, yeah. She's worth 80 million.
Yeah. Which
isn't bad, is it?
Shows you erotic fiction's the way to go. Maybe you should start writing some of it.
Well, absolutely. And the Queen is also in the list.
Oh, well, she would be.
The Queen is now 90, and her estimated wealth is £344 million.
Well, funny you should say that.
Yeah.
As JJ has tweeted from America. He says, here in Cincinnati, the moon is bright, but does not seem bigger. And he said, I once bet on a horse of the Queen's in Kentucky, but the nag came last.
Yeah. Well, it's never been very successful. I don't think the Queen's ever had a Derby winner, has she? I think she went over there to try and find one.
Yeah.
Yes. But anyway, look, that's, that just proves that... and the other one, sorry, Cara Delevingne.
Oh, yeah.
Delevingne.
She's a model, isn't she?
She's a supermodel. She's only 24.
Yeah.
Wealth, £14.5 million.
Uh-huh.
That's not bad, is it?
There you go. Here's one from Peter who says, "A Song for You," written by Leon Russell, covered by the Carpenters, Amy Winehouse, Donny Hathaway, Ray Charles and Whitney Houston.
OK. And can you hum it?
Can I hum it? I probably could if I heard it, yeah.
Yeah, but, I can't, you see, so I wouldn't... No, but
it's not immediately coming to me.
Well, that's what I'm saying. It's all very well somebody send us a tweet and saying, or a text, sorry, and saying, his most famous record was... But neither you nor I recognise that record.
No, he's not saying it's his most famous record. He's just saying that some of the songs that he wrote were covered by many other artists.
Yeah,
that's his point.
And yet you can't even get the melody in your head, and neither can I.
I can't think of it straight away. It
couldn't have been that famous, could it?
Well, it's not about whether it's famous. It's about whether it's a good song. I mean, not every good song becomes a hit.
Well,
not
it
every
should
great
do.
song is a hit.
If it's not a good song, it won't become a hit, will it?
Well, I don't think that's true. I mean, many Beatles songs, for example, that you would argue actually were not released as singles, but which were very, very good.
Yeah, I agree. But that's because they had so many songs, they couldn't release them all as singles, could they?
Well, that's the point.
So to put most of them on LPs.
But if you spoke to somebody who was not a massive Beatles fan, they might only know their hits, in which case they would be missing out on a whole catalogue of stuff that was much better.
Is that true?
Absolutely right.
Now listen,
here's one from Becky. It sounds like Porky needs to look no further than the Forbes Rich list and just rename this the FMP list.
Yeah, well, it's not a bad idea. The FMP list doesn't exist anymore, actually.
Doesn't it?
Because it's not...
You're now taken.
No, it's just not contemporary anymore.
Right.
Now, I'll tell you what I want to talk to you about.
Yeah, go on.
Now, we only mentioned it briefly yesterday, and we didn't want to shock people, but everybody's going on again today about John Cleese.
Yes.
And I wish my ex-wives were dead comment. I mean, it has to be tongue-in-cheek, doesn't it?
Well, of course it was. I mean, he was doing a show, wasn't he? I mean, for heaven's sake, a couple of journalists have taken it a step too far and said, how shocking is this? And I mean, the guy is a comedian after all.
Yeah.
I mean, if you went on stage and picked holes in absolutely everything that every comedian said, and in fact, I said this to you yesterday, if you came to one of our live shows and listened to some of the things that are said on the stage and made a story out of them, you might find that taking it out of context would sound horrendous.
Well, you can make your mind up for yourself by getting the old new DVD, the Two Mics Live in Edinburgh.
Well, you could do that,
And by the way, we've David, our very able assistant, has reconfigured the site so that you can buy the old one if you want to.
Oh, yeah, OK.
Yeah.
Well, the reason we removed the old one from the site was because we didn't want to cause any more confusion that had already been caused.
But then I managed to cause great confusion by forgetting to tell the distributors that there was a...
Well, there was also a bit of uncertainty about the actual price.
A bit of uncertainty.
Which we've now sorted out. It is, in fact, $13.49.
That's it. That's as much as you'll pay. Not a penny more.
Not a penny more.
No.
Although, there is now a slight delay with the download. You can get a download for slightly less money. But, but that's still being worked on.
We're still working on the download because...
You can pre-order it, though.
Yeah, you can pre-order it, but the big rush on at the moment is to get yourselves a boxed-up copy of the Two Mics Live in Edinburgh, presumably ahead of Christmas.
Exactly right.
They are flying off the shelves, kids.
Christmas is coming. Yeah. Now, I want to talk to you about David Attenborough's new show.
Oh, okay.
Because I don't know whether you've seen it, this wildlife show that he's got on. It's fantastic, Planet Earth 2. I watched a bit of it last night. The first one was about islands, right?
Yeah.
About these incredible islands. One where penguins were, and last night was mountains, right?
Right.
Which was about these, the animals that live in these very remote parts of the world.
Yeah.
And people are moaning and groaning, right? That they're quite cruel because they're showing, animals and in nature in their habitat in some quite bad situations.
Well, I mean, eating each other and all this kind of stuff.
Well, yeah, a bit of that. But there was an eagle yesterday coming down and sort of scattering a load of crows and then eating the carrion of this sort of, I think it was a fox or something that was lying there. But one of the worst ones was last week on the islands. There was this incredible island, which was a volcanic island somewhere down by the South Atlantic, right? Yeah. And the seas are so rough. And they talked about how they managed to get the crew onto this island. They only had like a really small window to actually get the boat close enough to a cliff
I understand.
to climb up it.
Yeah.
But there's thousands and thousands of penguins on this island, right? And the penguins get battered against the rocks as they're trying to land on the actual...
Well, the boat is battering the penguins.
Not the boat, no, the waves.
Yeah,
the waves are so big.
Yes,
the penguins are all over the water.
I see. Yeah,
and some of them get smashed. against the rocks.
I understand. Yeah,
and so what you see, right, is the penguins walking around covered in blood.
Ooh, that's terrible.
And people who have got sort of ridiculous points of view about these things are saying, "Oh, it's so cruel. You shouldn't be showing it on TV."
Well,
I think it's brilliant. I think it's absolutely brilliant.
But it's not. But the TV crew are not causing the penguins to get bashed. They get bashed anyway.
No, they get bashed anyway.
Yeah, well, what can you do? It's nature.
It's survival of the fittest.
It is, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's never nice to see what you might regard as cute animals covered in blood.
No, but they do get covered in blood. That's their problem, not ours.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. Animal rights go right out the window when porkies here. They get covered in blood. That's their problem. This is Talk Sport. This is Talk Sport. We are the Two Mics. There will be a podcast coming out a little bit later on. Now, speaking of people who've passed away, I thought we should give a mention to one of our old friends from New York, where we sadly got the news over the weekend that he had died. It's a guy called Dick Oliver.
Very much
who was
so.
an award-winning journalist, former Daily News copy boy, who held several posts on the tabloid's masthead before moving to radio, and then he ended up in television.
He did.
And he'd had a stroke about sort of a month or so ago, which was quite a bad one.
It was a bad one.
And he hadn't really recovered from it. But on the last day of his life, do you know what he did? He was able to vote for Hillary Clinton in the election.
Amazing.
Just before he passed away. So he was a terrific guy. He was one of those characters that was straight out of a sort of movie, wasn't he? When you met him, he used to chomp on a great big cigar.
You could imagine him running a newsroom because he was in charge of the newsroom. I mean, they have different sort of titles in America. You know, managing editor is the equivalent to our news editor and that kind of stuff, you know. Right. But he controlled that newsroom brilliantly. And
he was just a great New York character, wasn't he?
He was a great New York character. He used to chomp on cigars all the time. He used to come into Costello's after work and join us for a few sherbets. But one time...
And he only ever drank Heineken. I only ever saw him drinking Heineken.
Really? I couldn't remember what he drank.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, it always bottles of Heineken.
But one time in the 90s, I got a call from Dick, and he said he was coming over. And I said, it'd be brilliant to see you, because, you know, we'd known him for years, hadn't we, then? And so he was staying in a hotel in London.
Right.
And what happened was, I know this sounds really strange, but we were going to meet up for lunch on a Sunday until I was invited to Noel Botham's place in Surrey.
Oh, yeah.
Noel Botham was the National Enquirer correspondent in this country.
Did he not own the French house in Soho where he had some part
Yeah, he did, but this was his country place down in Surrey.
Oh, yeah.
And I said to Noel, I said, well, actually, my friend Dick Oliver and his wife are over from America. He said, bring him. He said, it'd be great. And when we got there, the guest of honour was Huey Green.
Really?
Remember Huey Green?
Absolutely. Paulie Yates' dad.
But, Noel Botham revealed at an inquest that Paulie Yates was, in fact,
his daughter.
The daughter of Huey Green. It was really bizarre, and we went to this fantastic lunch. Then a car came and picked us up and brought us back into town. We went to he wasn't staying in this hotel in Oxford Street, he was staying in another one. But you know the hotel right at the end of Oxford Street by Marble Arch?
Yes.
Quite a famous hotel.
Yeah, I know the one, yeah.
It begins with W or something?
Yeah, I think it might be under a different name now.
Yeah, I think it is. But it's a big hotel. It's right at the end of Oxford Street, right next to Marble Arch. And Dick was staying in a hotel a couple of blocks away. And he said, I went in there last night. It's a great bar. Let's go in here. So we go into this bar, right? I'm not joking. And it was simply this question, who's going to pay? So I ordered the drinks, and I said, right, Dick, I'm paying. He said, no, mate. You've taken me to have a lunch today. I haven't made a penny so far. I'm paying. I said, you're not, Dick, honestly. You're on my territory now. Right. This is not New York, mate. This is London. This is my town. I'm paying.
Right.
So as we pushed each other, right, the bar staff got completely the wrong impression.
Well, they thought you were having a fight.
They thought we were having a fight.
Right.
And we got thrown out. A couple of bouncers suddenly appeared. I'm not joking. Said, we don't have that rough stuff in here. And we said, we're not fighting.
Yeah.
We're good mates. We've been out all day for lunch. And Dick's wife and did
you get away without paying then if they threw you out?
Guess who I was with at the time?
Who?
Lady-wise.
I don't know.
Miss Carol Malone.
Oh, really?
Honest to God, yeah. And she was with me, and Dick's wife was there, and they threw us out. And it was a disgraceful slur on my record.
But did anyone pay the bill, though?
Well, we hadn't even had a chance to get the first drink. This was an argument over getting the first drink in.
I see.
Yeah,
right.
yeah, absolutely.
Very funny.
Yeah.
Well, do you know one of the most incredibly kind of eccentric things that he did?
Yeah.
And he partly did it out of just the fun of it. He used to like to remove things, souvenirs, from bars. Right, but not just things like ashtrays and pepper pots and mills and things that you could think easily would be removed. He used to try and find like the biggest thing that they had and walk out with it. And take it
like
home.
a bar stool or something?
Well, things like sort of ornamental things. I mean, he once...
well, that was theft, wasn't it?
Well, yeah, but I mean, it was just something... It became a sort of collection, and the more he did it, the more he kind of became prone to do it. Because I went round to his house once, and he lived in Queens for a lot of his life. He ended up, funnily enough, latterly, because his first wife died, and then he met this other lovely woman who has survived him.
Yes.
And they got a place in Sutton Place, that very nice part of Manhattan.
Fantastic. Very expensive as well.
59th Street Bridge, yeah.
Yeah.
I went round to his place, and he had this massive swordfish.
Yes.
On the wall.
Yes.
Which was like one of those things you'd see in a fish restaurant.
Yeah, sure,
a real sort of stuffed swordfish. And I went, now, you've got loads. I've seen loads of things in his other house, which were things like garden gnomes and all sorts of things that he'd managed to put into his car.
Yeah.
And I said, how on earth did you get swordfish out of a restaurant?
Yeah.
And he said, well, it was quite quiet, he said, we were in. And I paid the bill. And he said, just as I was leaving, this thing was on the wall, quite near the exit. And I just took it off the wall. And I said, well, didn't anybody stop you? He said, well, this guy came up to him and said, excuse me, sir, what are you doing with the fish? And he went, it's fish maintenance. And he went, oh, okay. And he just let him walk out with it.
Yeah.
And he used to just say things like that to people. And they'd go, oh, yeah, fish maintenance. Oh, of course. And then apparently somebody complained later to one of his other friends. He said, that friend of yours that came in, he took the fish. He said he was taking it for fish maintenance. What does he mean by that?
Yeah.
But he never gave
it back. No.
And he had this incredible collection of just weird stuff from pubs.
I didn't know that,
all over New York.
He's known him for years. He used to carry a baseball bat in the trunk, i.e. the boot of the car, and he told me that was there for, the ultimate discussion, because he knew one of these days he was going to have one, whether it was about politics or drink or somebody being rude to his wife or something like that.
Yeah.
But he showed it me a couple of times. It was a huge white, baseball bat, the sort of thing you see the shore parties carrying around from the US Navy.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And one of the things, I was reading an obituary that they had published in the Daily News, and he said his mantra was to write "Hey Martha" stories.
That's
he
right.
called it.
Absolutely.
And he said that means he would imagine husband saying to his wife in the morning, "Hey Martha, did you see this story?"
That's right.
And it's actually, that is really the definition of news, isn't it?
Well, we call it the Gee Whiz Factory, don't we? Gee Whiz, have you read that? Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, no, great guy.
Right. Anyway, great guy. His funeral's actually on Wednesday. I was wondering if we should send a little, gift of some
course
kind,
we will.
or some kind of remembrance thing. So
they have
I'll
a
talk to you about
strange
that.
thing in America where they have a wake before the funeral, don't they?
Yes, they do.
So the night before, don't you all go to the funeral home and sort of have a few sherbets?
Well, do you know how in some movies, in fact, I was watching The Departed the other night again, and they were talking about this guy who'd been assassinated by the mafia, and asking about the funeral, and they went closed casket, right, which means they don't have the open.
Exactly,
because I always find that quite strange. You go to a funeral
very
home.
weird, and there's half. They have half
it's
of the top
kind of an
of
Irish
the
thing as well.
Yeah,
isn't
it's
it?
half of the top of the coffin is open, and you're looking at
you're looking at the person, the loved one.
Yes, that's right,
as they call it. Yeah, but it's quite a good way of celebrating their life. I think in a way,
it's
because
spooky for me.
A funeral's always a quite sad occasion.
Yeah, that's right.
I know you can get a bit merry sort of towards the end of it, but the wake is normally when people sort of tell the stories about him and have drinks.
That's right. Yeah, but you are actually walking around the coffin with a drink in your hand, aren't you?
Yeah.
Which is rather unsettling.
It is.
For me.
Funnily enough, because I only found out literally a couple of days ago. It's one of those. He was a good friend of mine. He's one of the guys I would have gone over to the funeral for. But it's not really possible.
No, it's not possible. I would have gone as well.
I might try to send my sister as an emissary.
Yeah, but he was a damn decent chap, if you see what I mean. And
his brother Chris was remarkable.
And still is.
The only guy who would start his shift on the New York Post at 9 a.m. At 8 a.m. In a pub next to his house.
Yes, exactly.
Which opened, I think it's 7 o'clock in the morning.
That's right.
Down by the old Fulton Street Fish Market.
That's right. Yeah, and he'd get in there and start going.
And he would start the drinking at sort of 8 a.m. and not finish it until about midnight.
Just a legend. Don't know he's still alive. I mean, he would drink more during 18 rounds of golf than most people would drink in a week.
Yes.
Yeah.
I know.
And that would be playing golf at the same time.
Yeah. You're not very good at golf, though, mind you.
No,
but
exactly.
there we are.
Yeah.
Lots more to come. I think we should pick our listography coming up next.
Okay.
So you've still got time to get them in. I'm just going to go through some of them here. I've got one from Lizzie, who's obviously not very happy with you for some reason. She says, 3 tweets of mine that you didn't read out.
Right.
Or 3 that Porky said, "Who is Liz?" and talked over MG.
What?
# rude.
What? I've never done that.
Yeah, well, I don't know. You seem to have upset her in some way.
Dear.
We shall see. Lots more to come. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
Crazy, but that's how it goes. Millions of people living as hoes. Yeah, but maybe.
This is TalkSport. We are the Two Mics, and of course there will be a podcast coming out. Listography's coming up in a little while. Got a few suggestions for you. One here from Lucy: a song, a book, and a luxury item you would take if you were to be cast away on a desert island, which is one we haven't really done before.
Yes.
How about this from Where are we? From Two Mics Unofficial. 3 words you'd use to describe each other.
Mm-hmm.
Which would be kind of short, really, wouldn't it?
Yeah, very short.
Unless you wanted to elaborate on why you wish to describe
don't think so.
What are the 3 most unfathomable events of your life?
Mm-hmm.
Unfathomable events of your life?
Yes.
I don't know what that would be.
Well, something that's, been a mystery to you all your life and you've never worked out how.
3 most awkward encounters with a work colleague.
Yes.
That might be a bit tricky.
Yes, it might be, because they might still be around.
They could. One from Becky. What are your 3 favourite cheeses and wines that go with them?
Yes.
That might be good. Lizzie with another one. 3 people you were looking forward to meeting and then were the biggest disappointment. And then again, to have another dig at you, she says you might be one of them.
What?
You might be one of them.
We're not having that. No, definitely not.
Brian says 3 jobs where you think the employees, presumably he thinks the employees are underpaid for the work that they do.
Yeah.
There's not too many of those, really, are
No,
there?
it's not really. Yeah. I quite like that first one.
What, the Desert Island?
First one, yeah. We've never done that before, really, have we?
We could do that,
So what is it again?
It is, let me see if I can find it, a song, a book and a luxury item you would take if you were to be cast away on a desert island.
Okay.
There's a sort of Desert Island Discs feel to it,
Yeah,
isn't it?
that's right, yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
So only one song. Presumably it wouldn't be Leon Russell or Leonard Cohen.
No, so
Well,
one
don't tell me
song,
what it's gonna be.
one song that would be on a loop you could play again and again.
Yeah.
A book that would, give you comfort and succour, presumably, and then a luxury item. Okay,
Yes,
yeah,
exactly
let's have
right.
that. Let's have that.
How about this from Nick? He says, the missus keeps shouting, Odell Beckham, watching the NFL. And my reply is, oh, Jesus, Porky. Good night. Great show, fellas.
Yeah, thank you very much indeed. What's Odell Beckham?
Well, Odell Beckham's a football player for the New York Giants.
Is he?
Yeah.
Mm.
But he's not one of the Beckham tribe.
No.
It has to be said.
Mm.
And Steve says, Porky argues over getting money out of his pocket to buy a drink.
Mm-hmm.
Now this storytelling has gone too far.
No. The fight that we had at the bar there was who was going to pay, because we both wanted to pay and we were boarding each other off. But it was weird the way it moved from, we just said, no, it's all right, mate, don't worry, we're best friends. We've known each other for years. We've been out together all day. No, I don't believe you. And
That's
threw us
amazing,
out.
isn't it?
Sorry?
That's amazing.
It
I
was
had a
amazing,
strange encounter, actually, over the weekend I didn't tell you about. It was on Saturday night.
Oh, yes.
And I'd gone out with my daughter and her fiancé for dinner.
Okay.
And because I paid, as you tend to do, they said, well, and it was getting quite late, and we said, well, should we stop off for a drink on our way back to their place? This is in Camden, right?
Yeah, okay.
So we went to this bar.
In Camden?
In Camden.
What time would this be?
This would have been about midnight.
So they're still open there until 2 or 3,
A lot of
are
them
they?
are open. This is the thing now in London. A lot of bars are open until 2 or 3, like
Right.
just a matter of course.
Okay.
A couple of bouncers on the door, no big deal.
No, yeah.
Went inside. It's a bit of a sort of rock bar, really.
Yeah,
so
sure,
there's quite a lot
sure.
of loud rock music. They had a pool table, right?
Right.
But instead of the normal pool table scenario, you get, instead of putting money down and waiting for your turn,
Yes.
and winner stays on and all that, you have to go, because I suppose because it's quite a late night bar.
Yeah.
You have to go and pay for the queues and the cue
I see,
ball
yeah.
behind the bar.
Right.
So it's not a situation where anybody can just come and play.
No, sure.
Anyway, so we were sort of setting the balls up, and I was with my daughter, and he had gone off somewhere else to get some more drinks or something like that. And these 3 guys appeared and said, "Oh, is it winner stays on?" And I didn't honestly. I said, "Well, to be honest, I don't know." I said, "We're just going to have a couple of games, and you can have the table. It's fine." And this one guy, and these were all young guys in their 20s, he goes, you don't even know how to set the balls up. They're all wrong, right? And he starts moving the balls around inside the triangle. And I said, well, you know what? I don't really think, I don't really care whether you want to put them around a different way. I said, it's none of your business. I'm going to leave that's the way that I play pool, and that's the way that I'm doing it. And I knew it was right. Anyway, then we had a bit of a sort of a toing and froing of joshing and whatever.
Yes.
And in the end, I just told them all to bugger off, for want of a better word.
Yeah, that's right, yeah.
And they were just being a nuisance,
Yeah.
Anyway, about an hour later, suddenly as I was playing pool, one of the bouncers comes in and tries to sort of grab me by the arm and says, you need to come with us. And I said, what do you mean? And he said, no, you need to come with us. And luckily, Emma's fiancé sort of knows this place quite well. So he kind of took this guy off to one side and had this very animated argument with him. Anyway, it turns out that one of these guys who was, arguing with us earlier.
One of the nuisance people
One of the
earlier.
nuisance people had walked out of the place sometime later.
Yes.
And accused me of using some kind of racial epithet against him.
Really?
Which I hadn't done, because it's not the kind of thing I would do.
No, I know that.
And that was the story. And so this guy was now about to call the police and have me arrested and all sorts of nonsense.
And that's
on the word of this bozo who decided that he was unhappy with me because we wouldn't let him play pool.
Well, where was Bozo at this point?
Well, he'd left the premises.
What had he done? Come back and complained or something?
No, he'd obviously stayed around for a while.
I see.
But not then getting what he wanted, which was a game of pool.
Yeah.
On his way out, he'd obviously told this bouncer that I'd said something to him, which would have been, generally speaking, offensive or
some kind of
hate crime.
It's outrageous,
I said it was outrageous. Yeah, it's ridiculous. So just because one person makes some accusation,
exactly,
suddenly, I mean, if it hadn't been for Emma's fiance, who, as I say, knew them and was able to kind of calm it all down and say, well, that wouldn't have happened.
That didn't happen.
And I was there. And,
well, how many witnesses have you got to this and all that kind of stuff? Yeah,
extraordinary.
Totally agree. Totally agree. Absolutely outrageous. Now, have you seen this ridiculous nonsense about? Well, it's not nonsense, actually. It's probably true, but it's one of these, weird surveys that because we all walk around now on our phones, the way that the human being is walking has changed dramatically.
Oh, really?
Yeah, what happens is that whereas you used to walk in sort of short or medium steps, what happens now is because you're concentrating on the phone, you're normally talking on it, but, these days so many people stare into the phones when they're talking and all that. You're actually now walking with your leg raised far longer than it used to be, in case you are frightened of hitting an object in front of you.
Oh, what, because you're walking more kind of carefully?
Yeah, you're walking more carefully.
Especially for these people who are collecting Pokemon, presumably.
Yeah, exactly, and all that kind of stuff. And it's been likened to, funny enough, it's the second time we mentioned John Cleese in the show tonight, the John Cleese sketch on the Ministry of Silly Walks,
Silly Walks,
because people are actually waving their legs around in front of them, as if to sort of make sure there's not a bin there or a lamppost or even a pavement coming up that they're going to fall off, you know what I mean?
Bizarre.
And eventually it'll result in us all being a different shape.
I mean, I do try very hard not to walk and use my phone as a texting thing anyway.
Yeah.
I mean, I will.
Yeah, exactly.
If I'm texting somebody, I usually stop.
That's right. I agree.
Because it's, apart from anything else, it's pretty dangerous.
Yeah, of course it's dangerous.
I mean, you see people all the time crossing the road.
Of course you do. Falling off pavements and all sorts of things.
And also when you're driving now in London, you have to be so careful of that. Because, particularly when I'm coming in at night, actually, there's a couple of zebra crossings that I pass, and people literally just walk out on the zebra crossing without looking.
They do.
And if they're wearing dark clothes and it's a dark street and the lighting isn't very good, you have no idea that they're there.
No, that's absolutely right. That's absolutely right. And talking about walking, by the way, because I do quite a lot of walking, sort of on the, the north and south downs.
How's the back, by the way?
Back's not good. Back has now developed into sciatica in the legs.
Really?
Yeah, it's very painful, honestly. I mean, it's not too bad when I'm kind of sitting down like I'm in the studio now, but standing up and walking, very painful indeed. I don't know what sciatica is, but it seems to push pain from your back.
It's a nerve-driven thing, though,
yeah, I think it is. Through your hips and into the... But it's more painful in the front of my legs than the back.
Really?
People are always going on about, it's your tight hamstrings and all that. But no, this is some kind of sciatica pain, which is right down the front of my legs. And
dear God.
Yeah, it's honestly, it's very uncomfortable.
Well, are you going to be able to make it through the week?
Well,
you have to get some kind of litter to cart you up and down the stairs.
No, actually walking them down the stairs is okay. It's standing still. So if, for instance, like I was this morning, you're on a sort of train or a tram or something, and the damn thing stops because it's held up, it's agony trying to stand up straight. But anyway, there you go. I don't like moaning about these things.
Now, picture here of a bar that you might have been to or you might not have been. Do you remember that one in New York? McSorley's Ale House.
I don't actually. Where was that?
That was down in the Village. It was down
have been
around about sort of 2nd or 3rd Street.
I didn't use the Village a lot.
Did you ever go down for the curries in 6th Street?
Yes, I did. Yeah, I used to come down with you. We used to take our own wine, didn't we?
That's right. Yeah,
yeah, that's right. Yeah.
It's become a lot more sophisticated now. They've actually got one called Brick Lane there now.
Oh, really?
Which is very similar to the stuff you get here. Yeah. But yeah, it was about, I would say, maybe 4th Street, I think.
Right.
It's a couple of blocks down from the curry houses of 6th Street, and it was famous because it was one of the oldest pubs in the city.
It looks like it,
but
definitely.
It didn't have a ladies' toilet.
Oh, really?
And because traditionally ladies didn't drink in 1854.
So what did they do?
Well, they didn't go in there.
Well, do they go in there today?
Well, now they do, yeah. So they just share it.
Oh.
It's a shared toilet.
Really?
But there's no women's toilet in there.
Still?
Yeah. Well, I mean, last time I was there was probably, 10 years ago.
It's a bit uncivilised, isn't it? I don't like these
did you not remember when I first went to New York in the 80s, a lot of bars had just unisex toilets.
Yeah, did they?
Yeah.
I don't remember that.
Don't you?
They didn't have it in Costello's, did they?
Not in Costello's, no.
Yeah,
but a lot of sort of late night bars. The a place called the Chelsea Place.
Oh yeah.
And it just had toilets, and you basically went in, and there could be women in there, men in there, all sorts of nefarious activity going on.
I'm sure about that.
Shocking.
But anyway, getting back to walking, right?
Yes.
Thousands of miles of footpaths are blocked by barbed wire, broken stiles, dense undergrowth, and basically are not available to the walking public. Did you know that there are 140,000 miles of pathways in this country?
What, for ramblers?
Yeah, for ramblers.
Do you mean sort of like... well, funnily enough, down in Sussex, where I am, there's a public footpath that goes through the fields.
Right.
But quite often people lose their bearings and end up walking up to my house.
That's right.
And saying, "Oh, where's the footpath?"
That's right. And you say it's back there.
It's back there.
Yeah.
Because there's a sign that says private.
Yeah.
But in fact, not a lot of people see it.
No, that's right, yeah. It says a tenth of the 140,000-mile network in England and Wales is difficult or impossible to use, and some of the worst problems are in areas most popular with walkers, which include Snowdonia, which, of course, is in Ballalake, Wales.
In Wales?
Yeah, the Norfolk Broads and Exmoor. Another third of the network needs improvement, and this is a survey organised by the Ramblers, which you quite rightly pointed out.
Some of the people who
a charity for walkers.
Yeah, so, I mean, they call it a charity for walkers, but some of them are quite militant, these Ramblers. I mean, Janet Street Porter famously is one of them.
That's right, yeah.
Now, I think I told you this story a while ago. Near my youngest son's school, there's a field with cows in it, right?
Right.
Now, supposedly, according to the Ramblers Association, there's a public right-of-way that
across
goes
the field,
through this field,
yeah.
okay? So apparently, only the reason I know this is because I know the local guy who looks after all the kind of council property. They keep cutting the fence.
Right.
In order to get access to this pathway,
right.
with wire cutters.
I see.
Because the farmer keeps putting a fence up because they want the cows to escape.
Yeah.
They cut the fence in order to walk, and then the cows escape.
Cows get out, yeah.
And the cows are actually wandering about around the back of the school.
Well, why don't they put in one of the, cow-proof gates like they do in every other footpath I walk on, which is, one of those gates that you push forward, you step into the gap, and then you push it back, and the cows can't get through it.
Or put a stile up or something
like that. Or a cow grid. Yeah, stile or cow grid.
Well, I think this is one of the problems is that farmers can be a little bit obstinate and difficult, and they don't want the ramblers walking across their field because it's not really good for the cows because, as you said earlier, you can't switch them on and off.
That's right.
You don't upset the milking process, right?
So far. One of the problems is that the ramblers who are, always like with their maps, what do you call them? The local, what's the map that you get?
Ordnance Survey.
Ordnance Survey maps. They're always looking for signs, but apparently, farmers who are mischievous remove the signs.
Well, they do.
So it says in many areas, walkers would struggle to find the paths because up to 20,000 signs have been reported missing. In Shropshire alone, 743 signs indicating footpaths have gone missing and disappeared forever.
Well, it's one of those sort of inevitable immovable forces against another immovable force, isn't it?
That's right. Yeah.
I mean, farmers hate ramblers. Ramblers hate farmers.
That's right. That's absolutely right. Apparently, a total of 59,000 problems were recorded last year by 3,250 volunteers. Excuse me, but government funding for footpaths has been cut by a fifth. Well, that's a good thing because they're not the massively important issue, are they?
Not really.
Footpaths.
But I think there is again the ramblers are right in some respects because there are some private sort of landowners who will attempt to block a right of way.
Yes, that's right.
I'm not talking about farmers here. I'm talking about people who buy big houses in the country and decide they don't want people wandering through it.
Yeah, that's right.
Which is fair enough. But you can't. I mean, I'm quite in favour of rights of way if there is one.
Yeah,
there's a historic one. You've got to be sensible. You can't expect to walk into somebody's front garden.
No, that's right, exactly.
And then around the house and have a look in the kitchen.
No,
and then keep going.
I totally agree. I think it's
the time, by the way.
I think, don't worry about the time. I think it's the estate that Madonna and Guy Ritchie used to own, which is now owned by Guy Ritchie. I think it's in Wiltshire.
Yeah.
And I think that there's actually a right of way which is 10 feet from their kitchen window or something. You know what I mean?
There is one.
Now, if that's the case, well, that should be overruled by a judge or something and say, look, hang on, that might have been okay in 1560,
right?
But there's a mansion there now, and nobody wants somebody walking up to 10 feet within their window and staring through their window as a legal right.
By the way, have
ludicrous.
you seen that the Robbie Williams, Jimmy Page
incredible.
has picked up again? We'll get into that in a minute.
Yeah.
Because they've been accused of all sorts of things going on.
Indeed.
But and there's a great picture here from John, who says, "Hi, gents, I'm spreading the Two Mics fame all over Thailand." There's a picture of him wearing a Two Mics T-shirt.
What a boy. What a boy.
Well done, John.
Keep it up.
Keep it up. This is Talk Sport.
The Two Mics, simulcast across the UK on Talk Sport and Talk Radio.
On an island in the sun, we'll be playing and having fun, and it makes me feel so fine I can't control my brain.
We are the two Mikes. This is Talk Sport. Time for listography, and it's a sort of desert island theme for this one. It's a song, a book, and a luxury item you would take if you were to be cast away on a desert island. Now, you'd think this might be easy, but actually I've been racking my brain on this because if you're only allowed one thing, you know, that's not necessarily always going to be easy to choose.
No,
is it?
it's not.
But I've chosen a song,
right? Go on,
which I can give you, and maybe before the end of the listography, we can hear a little bit of it.
Okay.
The song I would take, I've decided after about 3 or 4 different choices, is "Don't Think Twice, It's All Right" by Bob Dylan.
Okay, why?
Just because it's a very complex kind of lyrical song. It's written at a time when Bob Dylan was at the height of his powers.
Okay.
And I've been listening to it quite a lot lately. It's been popping up every now and again on my system.
Yeah.
I just think it's a great song.
Right. Okay.
And it's not overly kind of noisy, if you know what I mean. It's not, you could listen to it any time.
Yeah, I understand what you're saying.
You could listen to it waking up in the morning.
Okay.
You could listen to it late at night, you know.
Okay.
You know, I would like it.
Okay. Well, the song I would choose, and everybody's going to say, oh, it's bound to be a Beatles song and all that. Well, it wouldn't be, actually, because I've listened to Beatles songs all my lives.
Right.
But one song which I find immensely challenging to listen to, because I'm always trying to work it out, is Baker Street by Jerry Rafferty.
Yes.
Because I regard that as a sort of, you know, a musical version of The Wasteland by T.S. Eliot.
Yeah.
I can never figure out what it's all about, but I listen to it all the time. And the saxophone riff in it is so spectacular that I don't think I'd ever get bored of it, you know what I mean?
Really?
So, yeah, absolutely.
I get bored with it every time I hear it now.
Do you?
Yeah.
I don't.
I'll tell you why, because for some reason when I was at Bath University, and they had the local, you know, sort of music station there, this university radio station.
Right.
With lots of people who thought they were DJs, but weren't really.
That's right.
I used to play it all the time.
Right, well, there you go, you see. So it's rinsed through your head, whereas, you know, I'm saying that if I took one Beatles song, I wouldn't want it to be rinsed through my head to the extent where I didn't like it afterwards, you know what I mean?
No, exactly.
So what book would you take?
I've thought of this again, and I mean, usually when you get the old, you know, people on Desert Island Discs, they usually say you can take the Bible and Shakespeare plus another book, don't they?
Right, do they?
But we're not going to do that.
No, we're not.
What I would take is a book that my dad gave me, which he actually got from one of his connections during the war.
Yes.
It's that old. It's called The Knapsack.
The Knapsack,
and it's basically a small hardcover book which includes lots of poems and lots of short stories by lots and lots of different people.
Yes.
Edited by somebody called Herbert Reed. And it's got, you know, it's got some great little classic poems in there.
Yes.
Some great little excerpts from other books. And because I don't think I could just take one book and read it over and over again.
Right, okay.
Whereas this is more like one you can dip in and out of.
Yeah, I see. Yeah.
So that's what I would take.
Yeah, okay. Almost like a book of poems type of thing.
Yeah, but it's not just poems.
No,
it's
I
prose
see. Yeah.
as well.
Yeah, okay.
You know.
Well, I think I'd take one of the classics that I've never got round to writing and never wanted to write. Sorry, never got round to reading and wouldn't want to read, really, in the nature of everyday business. I wouldn't have time. But it would be Ulysses by James Joyce.
Oh, yeah.
Just because...
Because you haven't read it.
I haven't read it, and as I understand it, it is a fascinating insight into Irish society in the, you know, sort of early part of the 20th century.
And the Jesuits and all that.
Yeah, that's right. So I think I would take Ulysses.
But would you be able to read it over and over again? That would be my thing.
Yeah, I think, from what I understand, you have to read it over and over again just to be able to understand it.
Yeah.
And that's why it's such a challenge. So if you're stranded on a desert island, that would probably take up all your time.
Okay.
Yeah.
Now, my luxury item,
yes,
you may not allow. I don't know whether it's a question of whether you allow it or not, but I mean, I wouldn't normally consider this to be a luxury item, but I would take a woman.
Right, okay.
That would be my luxury item.
Yeah, okay. I mean, that
for obvious reasons.
Yes, exactly. But I mean, you know, that is a bit of a contradiction to the desert island situation where you're supposed to be on your own.
Well, it doesn't say you have to be on your own.
Yeah, okay. So it'd be a woman Friday, would it?
A woman Friday, yeah.
Yes, okay.
And Thursday.
And Thursday.
And Wednesday.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Yeah, well, we won't go into that. Yeah, yeah.
Well, I mean, why? I mean, it doesn't say you can't take something with you.
No, that's all right. Okay, that's fine. Okay.
Might be the worst idea I've ever had.
Yeah, it might be the worst idea.
You might have a row after the first 2 days.
Yeah,
You're
okay.
stuck on an island together.
Okay. Well, my luxury item would be a mobile phone.
Yeah. Very clever.
Right?
Yeah.
Because
they haven't got any signal there.
Well, there would be, because it'd be a satellite one.
A satellite phone?
Yeah, satellite phone.
Well, that's not a mobile phone.
Well, it's a phone. It's an independently,
you remember that the wind-up radio that became
that's
famous,
right. Yeah,
you
absolutely.
can use everywhere in the world.
Yeah, you can. Yeah, be around.
You'd have to take that because you have no electricity either.
No, exactly. It would be a wind-up phone.
Although
like that.
If there was no electricity, how would you have the song?
I'd get James Dyson to invent one for me. The wind-up mobile phone.
Yeah.
Okay. Because he invented the wind-up clock.
No, I don't think it was him.
Well, I'm sure it was.
Was it?
wasn't it?
No, I don't think it was Dyson.
James Dyson, the Dyson Blade and all. It was the other guy then.
There's a guy called Trevor Bayliss.
Trevor Bayliss, he's the guy. I'd get him to make me a wind-up mobile phone. Yeah, definitely, yeah. And that would generate... And he'd have
who would you call, though?
Hey?
Who would you call?
Well, I'd call anybody I could call from there and whatever fields I had. Because he would also have to invent me well, in fact, he wouldn't have to. You'd go back to Victorian times when they used to have wind-up gramophones, didn't they?
They did.
And that would play my...
Well, I'm just saying
my record.
Well, that's what I'm saying. I mean, if there wasn't any electricity, how would you have the song?
Well,
anyway?
you'd have a wind-up gramophone, because that's the very first gramophones were wind-up, weren't they? You see them in things like upstairs, downstairs, people winding up the gramophone.
And it would start.
And put your record on. That's right,
start the right speed.
That's right, yeah. And all that kind of stuff, you know. So I think that's how it would all go.
Okay. Yeah, well, that's all quite fascinating.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Rob says this. Did you know the song Baker Street is a Baker Street in the USA and not the Baker Street in London?
I assumed it might be, because
it
doesn't mention Sherlock Holmes.
No.
It doesn't mention...
It doesn't mention the London Transport Lost Property Office.
Transport Lost Property. It doesn't mention Madame Tussauds, which is at the bottom there, isn't it?
Tussauds.
Madame Tussauds.
Madame Tussauds.
Isn't it?
It's Tussauds, isn't it?
No, it's Tussauds.
Tussauds, no. No, that's on the main Marylebone Road.
Yeah, well, that's nearby, isn't it?
Well, it's near.
Yeah.
But the planetarium's nearer.
Planetarium, that's what I meant, the planetarium.
It's next to the planetarium.
Next to the planetarium.
I actually haven't been to Madame Tussauds since I was a kid.
I've never been.
Have you never been?
No, never been. No.
Parents never took you there?
No, because we didn't live in London, did we?
No.
If you came down to London, you used to go to Buckingham Palace, you know, and then, Winston Churchill statue, Tower of London, that's all right, all that kind of stuff.
Have you ever been to the planetarium either?
No, I haven't.
That's great. You'd actually like that.
No.
Even now.
Well, you look up the sky and you think it's the real sky and all that kind of stuff.
They recreate the, it's
the
like
universe. Yeah. Sounds brilliant.
Fascinating stuff.
Now you were talking about this fight going on between. Now, who did you say?
Yeah, Robbie Williams and Jimmy Page.
Yeah, but you know what? I didn't realise. I didn't realise that Robbie Williams and Jimmy Page are, feuding. But did you also?
But they've been feuding for ages now.
They have. But did you also know that Gary Barlow and Brian May have exactly the same problem next door to each other?
Because you were talking about Brian May the other day.
And the leaf blowers.
And the leaf blowing, right? But seemingly he's been having a feud because of the noise. I mean, it's funny, as you said the other day, that these sort of rock stars churning out, mega decibel level music are now worried about the noise around their houses.
That's right, yeah. But what I find astonishing is that, I mean, the latest I've read is that Robbie Williams has accused Jimmy Page now of having some sort of a mental illness.
He's saying he's weird.
He's saying he's weird. He sits outside my house with noise machines trying to record the decibel level of the builders who are working on my house.
Well, the last story I saw about this, right, was when Robbie Williams had finished supposedly all the work that he was having done.
Yeah.
And that now Jimmy Page was deciding to annoy him by starting works of his own. And not just that, but hiring a scaffolding company, which was called the Millennium Scaffolding Company.
Right.
And, of course, Millennium being a famous Robbie Williams song.
Yes.
Robbie Williams assumed he'd done it deliberately.
Yes.
But he now says that he's seen him sitting outside in his car, watching the builders.
That's right,
He's seen him lying in his garden watching the builders.
Yeah.
It's all very odd, isn't it?
But you see, the other thing is, you're going about this other dispute. Going on between Brian May and who did I say? Brian May and Gary Barlow. Yeah. And so on the one hand, we've got Brian May being very upset about the leaf blowers in the street making all the noise.
Right.
Then we've got Brian May being very upset about some building dispute with Gary Barlow who lives next door. And you begin to wonder to yourself, even when you've got a £10 million house, there's absolutely no peace with your neighbours whatsoever. Well, is there any guarantee of peace with your neighbours anywhere in the world anymore? Well, I don't think there is.
Well, only if you don't have them, I think, is the thing. If you live in a place which is isolated enough where there's no neighbours.
Like Exmoor, you mean?
Well, no.
But who'd want to live in Exmoor?
Well, no, if your house is just far enough away from the general kind of street-level situation.
Yeah, but you know what happens then? What happens then is the local authority then grant permission to some guy who's selling a field nearby to turn it into a travellers' camp or something like that. And then you suddenly find another nightmare situation.
Yeah.
Or the government decided to build HS2 and the railway line's going to pass 30 feet away from your kitchen window.
Yeah, or they're going to add some more runways to the nearby airport.
Exactly, or something like that. Yeah.
Here's one from Ian who says, if you take a woman with you, you can say goodbye to reading your book or listening to your song then. That's a bit of a sexist comment.
Well, for an hour a day, yeah.
Well, no, I don't think he means that. I just mean that I don't think he's talking about Rogerisation. I think he means just from the general annoyance.
Oh, I see. Well, that's a bit sexist.
Michael says Porky would still be able to annoy the world from his desert island.
Yes, exactly. I'll try to.
Okay, right. Lots more to come. This is TalkSport.
The Two Mics. Simulcast across the UK on TalkSport and Talk Radio.
Today you and I same. You say you like the sun, I like the rain. So before we go do it all again, you better catch your own train. You better catch your own train.
This is Talk Sport. We are the two Mikes. Of course, tomorrow night it's going to be Ask Porky. Also, amazingly, and we haven't really talked about Trump so far on the show today, but it's hard to believe it's only a week since he got I mean, it's actually slightly less, but I mean, tomorrow night's show will be the anniversary of 1 week of Trump winning the election.
It feels like a month, doesn't it?
Really does,
At least a month, yeah.
It really
I agree.
Does. So we might check in with some of our friends over in the US of A and see how it's all going down. There's a massive kind of wave of, I mean, aside from the demos that seem to have died down a little bit, there's now lots and lots of articles being written about his advisors and the guy that he's appointed to be the chief of staff who used to run his Breitbart website and sort of blogging area, which and there's all sorts of allegations that he's this kind of white supremacist and all this stuff.
I think another intriguing aspect of it is that he says that he's not sure he's going to move full-time to the White House in Washington, D.C. He wants Trump Towers, where he's got a $30 million apartment, to be the centre of power.
I wonder if he's going to be the first president that actually helicopters backwards and forwards to Washington just to sort of work during the day.
A piece I read this morning said, why not? It's only an hour, isn't it?
Well, I'm sure it's even probably less than a very quick helicopter. In Air Force, whatever they call it. They call it Marine One.
It's called Marine One. The helicopter's Marine One, isn't it? Yeah.
But I don't think he's got a helipad on the top of Trump Tower.
Well, he could soon get one. Well, if not, he'd get one very close by, wouldn't he? He is, after all, the president.
But surely the thing about being president...
It's one at the end of 58th Street, isn't there?
Heliport, is there?
Yeah, I think so, yeah.
On the east, well, the one on the east side, I know, is 34th.
34th, that's right, yeah, it is, yeah, down there.
But then you'd have to close off all the roads, because it'd be the presidential...
Yeah, of course you would, yeah.
Which people would get really annoyed about.
Yeah, they would.
Well, I mean, I'm assuming, in the process of the handover that they're going to do, I mean, he's going to have to get, and this is where it starts to get interesting with Trump, he's going to have to get all these briefings, isn't he? Security briefings and defence briefings from their equivalent of civil servants.
That's right.
And he's going to be in receipt of an awful lot of very sensitive information.
Yeah, exactly.
And he doesn't strike you as a guy who's very good at keeping secrets.
Well, he's also a guy, and again, I'm reading a piece today, on the political blogs and all that, a man who found the challenge of becoming the President of the United States of America absolutely enthralling.
Yeah.
But never has the case of the race being more thrilling than the victory has it ever been true.
No.
Because now he's totally uninterested in running the country.
Exactly.
I mean, he hasn't got any instincts whatsoever to become a servant of the people.
No.
He just thought it was a great laugh getting there. Now he's got there, and now he is number one citizen. Number one banana. Most probably, he would expect everybody else to do that work for him.
Well, that's true. And people say that that's his MO, isn't it? He takes on a project, but then he kind of delegates it once he's getting a bit bored with it.
Yeah, that's right.
But, I mean, the other thing that interested me about his, what he's going to be like once he's got all this information, there was a piece written by a guy that you might remember called Tony Brenner.
Yeah, I
remember
Tony,
the National Enquirer.
Yeah, that's right.
And he wrote a big blog the other day, which I read, in which he is sure that there has been quite a bit of, shall we say, underhand dealing between him and the Enquirer on various issues, right?
Yeah.
Various stories that they haven't run
That's right.
about him because he's either made some agreement with them, given something else.
Yes.
In the way that these things kind of work.
Yes, that's right.
And one of the things that people that he knows have said is that when he gets into power, he's going to use the power to find out all the dirt on people that he doesn't like.
Right.
And he's going to give it all to them.
Yeah, exactly, yeah. Well, it wouldn't surprise me at all.
Which would be also extraordinary.
Yeah, but people like him see the ascension to power in a totally different perspective to the way we see it.
Well,
he
would see it as a great opportunity to get his revenge on people.
That's what I mean. He sees it as a worthy sort of climax to
he's the
a life's ambition to sort out grudges and
well, you imagine
settle
he's
disputes.
got a list of enemies a mile long.
Oh,
and he's the kind of guy that would hold a grudge, isn't he?
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
By the way, it's 2014 to Cincinnati against the New York Giants.
Oh, geez.
Just so that you know.
Ooh, well, that's great, isn't it? I'm delighted you told me that.
Yeah.
I couldn't live without it.
Absolutely
honestly.
right.
Yeah.
Now, it's going to be a tough week for you, isn't it? Because obviously the secret mission that we can't talk about goes on. But normal service is being resumed, in case anybody's worried.
Yes, about what?
About our show.
What do you mean, normal service?
Well, we're doing the show as normal, despite whatever else might be going on.
I cannot talk about the secret project.
I know that.
If I did, I'm not joking. What could happen is I could walk out of here and find myself subpoenaed... defenestrated or subject to restrictions.
Yes, indeed.
And that's all I can say.
So we can't do that. And so we're going to just reiterate as well, as far as tweets about all of that are concerned.
Yes.
mean, I can't stop you sending them, but we're never going to be able to read any of them out.
Sorry, can't acknowledge them, can't reply to them.
Yeah.
Certainly can't read them out.
So you might want to put a hiatus on that.
I'm very sorry about that.
Bit of a hiatus on that, I think.
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Now, Ask Porky coming up tomorrow.
Yes.
So put those in as normal. And then you had any thoughts about a quiz at the end of the week?
Quiz at the end of the week? Well, it's going to be about the British television industry, isn't it? Because that was going to be last week until we decided to do Trump, yeah?
No, it was going to be 2 weeks ago when we decided to do Liverpool.
That's right, it was, yes.
Because we were going up to Liverpool, which was a tremendous success, by the way.
Yeah, it was a tremendous success. Now, our next show, and the only show left this year, is Glasgow.
It is.
17th of December, so that's just a week before Christmas. So that's the finale. And actually, we are still putting together next year's schedule, but our live shows next year are likely to be towards the middle and end of the year, not the start.
Yes.
Because I'm afraid we got so much on at the start of the year, we're not going to be able to get out on the road.
No, we're getting a lot of requests, actually, from different places.
We are, yes. And we'd love to do them all.
Particularly Yorkshire. We should really do something in Yorkshire, shouldn't we?
We should do something in Yorkshire, yeah.
Now, here's something for you to think about in the next sort of 24 hours before you come back, or 23, 22 hours or whatever it is. Do you know about this guy who's going to try and swim across the Atlantic?
Well, I touched on him last week with you, and I said it's the most ridiculous thing I've ever heard of in my life. Yeah, I did. Yeah, I touched on it. Yeah. The convoy of boats that are going to go with him and all this kind of stuff.
Wasn't there a guy that did it relatively recently?
No, it's never been done.
No, but he didn't succeed. But he set off from Africa. Or was he rowing? I can't remember. I mean, nobody's actually swum it, have they?
No.
It's 2,000 miles.
It's nearer 3, isn't it?
Well, apparently he's going to go from Senegal
to Newfoundland
on the west coast of Africa to Brazil.
Oh, Brazil, I see.
Well, no, because if you went from Senegal to Newfoundland, you'd have to swim a lot further.
Yeah, you would.
It's north.
Yeah, you would, yeah. So he'll go with the currents and the tides, I suppose, which drift across to South America.
It's going to take him 5 months.
Yeah,
Ben Hooper is his name.
That doesn't sound to me like swimming the Atlantic, Senegal to Brazil. Well, I regard swimming the Atlantic as the route that the Great Liners take. So that would be from the Scilly Isles to New York.
Southampton to New York.
Yeah, absolutely. That's swimming the Atlantic as far as I'm concerned.
Well, that would be colder, wouldn't it?
Yeah, of course it'd be colder, yeah. But
and rougher.
But, I mean, he's swimming...
Well, the Atlantic is a massive ocean.
It's a massive ocean, I agree. But most people... Transatlantic means London to New York, doesn't it?
Well, only if you live in London or New York.
No, it does. Or Paris to New York.
If you live in Senegal,
yeah,
then, transatlantic probably means taking a hop across to Brazil.
Well, funny enough, I did that on the Concorde.
You're seeing everything from the Westerner's point of view.
Yeah, no, I did that on the Concorde. That's where we stopped to refuel in Senegal.
And you didn't fly to New York, did you? You flew to Belize or somewhere?
Flew to... British Honduras.
1,879 miles it is in a straight line from Senegal to Natal, which is the Brazilian town.
Yeah, but, to me, that... I think if you're going to do it, you've got to recognise that the bigger the names of the places you're swimming from and to, the more recognition you'll get. But, I mean, swimming to Brazil, quite frankly, that's not transatlantic as far as I'm concerned.
Of course it is.
It's not.
That's rubbish.
Nah.
Do you know how he's going to eat, by the way?
No, go on, tell me.
They're going to throw food at him.
What, is he swimming? Like a seal?
Yeah.
Or
they're going to be holding a pole out. He'll be taking it off the end of a pole.
Yeah, but he is getting out the water, of course, isn't he?
Well, apparently there's going to be a support boat.
Yes, that's what I mean.
And he's going to sleep on that.
That's right, exactly.
Well, you couldn't expect a guy to swim for 5 months without sleeping.
Well,
That's only the kind of thing you would do.
But surely then, that's just like I'm going for a swim every day. But every day is a few miles more across the Atlantic. And then you climb on your boat at the end of the day. So that was a nice day's swimming, thank you. I'll have 8 hours sleep and I'll get back in the water tomorrow and I'll swim another 30 miles or something.
Presumably the boat will be stationary while he's asleep.
Yes, exactly. Of course it will.
So he's still swimming nearly 2,000 miles.
Yeah, but I mean, when somebody swims the English Channel, they do it without getting on board a boat between starting and finishing, okay? Right. And that's the only way I would recognise somebody is actually swimming across the Atlantic if they did it without getting out of the water.
I'm sure he's going to be terribly disappointed that the Porkmeister is not endorsing his charity swim.
I think it's ludicrous.
On the grounds that he's not swimming the Atlantic.
I mean, on that basis, you could swim around the world. All you do is swim 30 miles a day, then get on your boat and have 8 hours sleep.
Well, that would be quite an achievement.
And then get back in the water next day 30 miles. No, anybody could do that. Anybody's a fairly competent swimmer.
No.
If they've got the time.
Well, I couldn't do it.
If they've got the time. How long is this one going to take?
About 5 months.
Well, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Why? It's not even an achievement as far as I'm concerned. It's not.
Do you know what he's going to have to do as well? He's going to have to wear a shark repulsion device.
Yes, that's right.
I don't know what that is, like a cage?
No,
What's a shark repulsion device? It sounds like something from the Batman's belt.
No, I think it is something like that. I think it emits a sort of pungent sort of aroma to keep sharks away or something like that, on like a couple of knee pads or something like that.
Now, according to those who know these things, his epic swim will take him over 30-foot swells, right, which is not easy to swim in.
No.
Passing through shark-inhabited regions.
Yeah, but with a load of support boats to shoot the sharks, by the way.
Well, sharks move pretty quick.
Yeah, well, you can still shoot them with a
that footage?
harpoon.
Did you not see that footage of the shark that came into the cage?
Yeah, I did, yeah.
There were plenty of people on that boat. They didn't shoot the shark.
Yeah, I know, but what they do is in those cages, they throw bits of blooded meat out to attract the sharks so you can see them, you see what I mean? So you're actually enticing the sharks to come and fight and
they
play.
Didn't expect him to come and smash his way through the cage.
They misjudged
Anyway, he's going to encounter jellyfish, flying fish and a harsh equatorial sun.
Yes.
Right? But if he's successful, Ben will be the first man in history to have swum an ocean in full every single mile of the Atlantic Ocean. So that's what the record people are saying.
Honestly, I'd be very reluctant to recognise any sort of a record like that. It just doesn't make any sense to me.
Now,
it doesn't make sense to me why you'd bother doing it in the first place.
Now, a Frenchman called Benoit Lecomte
Oh,
swam from Massachusetts in the US to Quiberon in northwest France in 1998, but did not make the record books because he was forced to rest up in the Azores for a week.
Yes.
That'd be annoying, wouldn't it?
Well, it was very annoying indeed.
Swim all the way to France through Canada, and they say it doesn't count.
Yeah, but I mean, why would you bother, honestly? Listen, I'm glad you raised that issue that people read about tomorrow. Stamp duty must be slashed.
Yes.
Stamp duty reforms have slowed the housing market and raised half as much money as the Treasury predicted.
Good news for slum landlords.
Yeah, exactly. But it always happens. You put taxes up and the tax collection goes down. The Exchequer received $370 million less in stamp duty than the $700 million expected following major changes made by George Osborne. Now, can I just tell you that I went to look at the potential of buying a property last week in a block in Surrey, which I was only aware was being built about 4 months ago, OK?
Yeah.
I've only got 1/3 of it up. There are 80...
1/3 of it?
Yeah, I've only got 1/3 of it up. There are 88 units.
Right.
And people have started buying off plan. 80 properties have been sold.
Really? But have they been sold to people who want to rent them out, or have they been sold to people who want to live in them?
90% of the properties have been sold to buy-to-let landlords.
Right. I thought they were being discouraged from doing it, though.
90%. And I said, well, hang on. I said, what about the massive tax increases George Osborne's going to... And they just said, well, they're going to pay that through the rent.
Really?
Simple as that.
Blimey. This is Talk Sport.
Look at the light!
Don't forget to follow the Two Mics at the Two Mics on Twitter and on YouTube. Just look for Two Mics TV.
But the TV crew are not causing the Penguins to get bashed. They get bashed anyway.
No, they get bashed anyway.
Yeah, well, what can you do? It's nature.
It's survival of the fittest.
It is, yeah.
Well, I mean, it's never nice to see what you might regard as cute animals covered in blood.
No, but they do get covered in blood. That's their problem, not ours. There will be a milk shortage because you cannot just turn a cow on and off.
If you love the Two Mics podcast, you'll love the live show. Weekday overnights from 1am on DAB Digital Radio and 1089 and 1053 AM and via the TalkSport app. TalkSport, your Premier League station with exclusive commentaries every weekend.
What an absolute corker!
TalkSport.
Where does the moon get its light from?